Three. Hello and welcome to a brand new Unsourced. I'm here with my good pal Tony, who's been joining me with and many others on this journey through the Scream franchise. We decided to take a little detour this week from the movies to talk about this weird entry, Scream the TV series, MTV riding high on the
Mhm.
success of Teen Wolf. Decided to given Scream 4's non success, to try their hand at that with the Scream series, Scream franchise, to mixed results. 2 seasons, a double feature, let's just call it made for TV movie, and a third season with a completely different cast and story. But we're going to talk about the first season, and maybe that's
Yeah.
it. And maybe that's it.
I,
Um,
I I'm gonna petition to keep doing this. I'm down for it. I'm not gonna sicko. But I want to start this by saying this series started with 4 hosts, right? Now we're down to 2, right? So that should alone tell you what the quality level of the stinker that we're watching here is.
yeah,
And
they have excuses. I'm gonna believe them for
yes,
now. Okay, I'm gonna
You
believe.
know what? Like we take them at their word for sure. But even if like this was like a dog ate my homework situation, I don't blame him.
I
This shit
almost
was
didn't come
crazy.
here. I'll let you do it yourself. Like, go, just host.
Yeah.
I'm out.
The,
Um,
the the podcast this week is do your own homework. Yeah,
exactly.
but
It exists. The series exists. The end.
we have to acknowledge that like anybody who's listening to this, right, is either like a Scream completionist who is like, what is this thing, or is some poor unfortunate soul who actually had the opportunity to watch this themselves. And what I will say is that like this is a very fascinating peer into like what teen television was at this time, as well as like the kind of teen television was trying to evoke. But my broader thoughts on the series is that like, the first Scream movie inadvertently like solidified the brand of the CW, right? And this is such a pale imitation of what a CW drama is. Even if Teen Wolf was such a success for MTV, this feels like, they wanted to be something that was low rent and it couldn't even reach that threshold. This feels almost like it's a sci-fi production. And for those reasons, I love it. I'm having a blast watching this thing because it sucks.
I mean, I wasn't bored in the traditional ways. I was
Yes.
bored, but I was bored in like, how could, what, why? All of the idioms, honestly, came to mind. But like tradition. First question, Tony, what's your favorite TV show based on a scary movie?
Oh my god, I don't even know what the answer to this would be. Like I may need some help from you here. Could you name like some prominent ones, maybe some
Uh,
good ones? Like
uh,
Hannibal's obviously an
Yeah,
option
there's
there, right?
Hannibal, yes. Hannibal, there's Freddy's Nightmares. There's technically Friday the 13th, the TV series. There's Exorcist. There's The Exorcist. I Know You Did Last Summer had one too. I
could
think
could
that's
I
about it.
maybe cheat and say like Tales from the Crypt, or
Okay,
like the Twilight Zone,
cheat.
you know?
I would say cheat. I'm gonna go
That's a cheat.
say
Fair.
I'm gonna say I Know You Did Last Summer. Um
Oh, okay, yeah, fair,
because it was
fair,
so
fair.
bad and gave me like a talking point that I can bring up every time. That movie is like that show is like the most homophobic thing I've ever seen in my life. It is so bad. I bring it up
More
all the time.
homophobic than this?
I'm gonna say yes because that one. Oh my god, they have this one. They have like one thing in common. There is one in that show. I'm bringing up because kind of ties to a problem with this show. Is that
Oh,
it
for
has
sure.
this teacher who's in high school, right? And he's in a relationship with a recently graduated, okay, 18-year-old former student. But they make a big
Still
deal.
gross.
Yeah, no, but then there's a line of dialogue that says the teacher admits, "I had my eyes on you, but don't worry, I waited until you were
Ew.
18." And like
Ew.
and like they mentioned that. They didn't have to mention that. They mentioned it. Like what? My God. And like tee hee. Oh, people don't understand. They're too straight and prudish for our
Mhm.
queer lives. What the fuck are you talking about? This is gross.
Mhm. And the idea that it's like, "Don't worry, I waited till you were 18." That means that you noticed at 17, and then we're like, "No, I'm holding out." Like, what is that writing? That's
It's so
crazy.
bad. And like the entire thing turns out to be like it's a crazed bisexual lesbian. Like
Oh
it's
God.
just stereotypes out the ass. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
say yeah, it's more homophobic than this, which isn't that great either because it also has some of that. So maybe they're the same. I don't know. Maybe it's
Uh,
recency bias.
what's the nickname in the show? Bi Curious and the Virgin. Oh, I can't
Well,
wait to get into their
is she
hijinks.
even bi curious?
Yeah, no, they are literally worried to just call her a lesbian, and they're just like, we're gonna call her bi curious, so she's still on the table, so to speak. You know, that's the thing that
Just
they do
have
with
them
these
bang
kinds of
then.
shows, right?
Have her and Randy bang. I'm not even know the guy's name. I'm calling him Randy. I'm gonna call them all
Yeah,
by their movie names. Okay. Um.
what they're supposed to be doing. The Randy in this show is so insufferable.
Oh,
He is so horrendous.
he's
The
so
fact that
bad.
he's explicitly an Elon Musk simp who literally like through the first third of the show goes through a whole libertarian with Asian GF arc is so
Oh,
ridiculous to
that is
me.
also bad. I want to bring that up. That is also terrible. That entire thing.
Like she has no say in that relationship. She is like only there because the writers said that they are supposed to be together. Like there is no organic chemistry between those performers or how they're written.
She stops existing after she dies, in every
Oh
way.
yeah. And literally there's a sequence where it's like, hey, you got a choice. Which one of your friends are you gonna save? And then she literally chooses the other friend. Like this, it's literally a moment where the killer's like, you choose who dies and who lives, and she chooses someone. That's crazy.
Randy mourns her for like an episode, and then it's like then forgets that she exists. She's never brought up
Crazy.
again, and he's like
She just
laughing.
disappears.
This all happens in like the span of like 2 weeks, man. If he was gonna bang her, like he's like, oh man, I should have gotten my condom. Oh, next time. Like, come on,
Mhm.
man. This makes him look like a scumbag. They're all scumbags.
Oh, they're totally all scumbags. And the only person who remembers anybody who dies is our not Sydney, right? Like Willa Fitzgerald is her name, right?
Yes,
From Strange Darling. She's
yes.
the only person, like literally, and I'm not saying this because she's great in Strange Darling. She's delivering a real performance in this show, but she's surrounded by like a strange, eerie, like uncanny valley kind of show. The first thing I noticed that really threw me off was like all of these like high schoolers are definitely played by like 25-30 year olds, and then all of the parents are played by like 35-40 year olds who feel like they're too young to be in the positions there are. So there's like this really weird like dissonance between the age groups, so to speak, in the show. So everybody kind of feels the same age, and at points it's like they kind of look the same too, so you start to like forget who's who. It's insane. This is like major California brain shit.
I know it's funny because I think the show and the writers also forget because a non twist at the end of the season predicates on no one in the cast, none of the characters realizing that ages are a thing that people get when they get older. You notice that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's made by adults who don't have kids who imagine what it's like to be parents, which is very strange. That's a very strange thing when you recognize that there's no lived experience within the show. But that's what ends up happening here, where it's like the weird thing about the show is that it's structured like a legacy sequel for no
it
reason,
is. It
right?
is.
There's no reason for there to be like a prior event for them to be like harkening back to when we're starting fresh, right? Especially when there are things that are clear delineation points where it's like we're doing our own thing. But then even worse, it's like these people who already look very close to one another in age, where it's like hard to gauge like who's supposed to be in seniority there. Then it's also like the performance types. It's like you can actually feel the insecurity from the older performers who are like trying to still seem hip and with it. And then you can feel with like the people who are playing high schoolers, like they're sick of playing kids. So they're trying to play more adult than they actually are. It's a really weird, like you could see this almost as like an acting exercise where like everything is dialed at the wrong level
You know
and
what?
how that does something to a project.
That is perfect to say because it does feel like an exercise in that this is like a first run draft of the show. Like every like it's like they
100%.
like everything feels we talked about this with Scream 3. We're past the wall of artifice here. Like this is like Play-Doh of a show. There's no texture at all. It's just mushy. It's like a sockwit of a series, man. It's like it just glazes over you. I don't even know, man. There's no there's not even any camp really, because in camp
Oh no.
you need like something to hook on to, something to contrast the camp. Everything is beige. Everything is one flat line. I can't remember what the show was about. I watched it last week.
What I love about the first episode is our Not Randy kind of gives us this like breakdown where they're like, well, with
The
TV it's a bit
rules.
different. It's
Y-
it's got to be like Gothic, like Ryan Murphy. And this show speaks a big game where it's like we're gonna make sure that it's exciting,
Oh
but
my
also
god.
we gotta stretch it out, and also like it's telling you exactly what they did in the pitch meeting. And then when you're watching it play out, you're just like, you just took the beats of a slasher film and stretched it out. You promised me that you were going to redefine what a slasher would be in order to make it work for television,
Right.
and that's not what you did.
The worst rules, right? Can we just say these are the worst rules?
Yeah, because they don't even follow them. like,
Okay.
like
No,
it's just brought up and thrown away.
but like actually, let me just clarify. I want to give the show some grace here, but also while skewering it, because what he actually said was, yeah, because when you stretch out a slasher to a TV show, it gets boring. So you know what we're gonna do? You gotta make it not boring. You gotta make the characters interesting and relatable, and you wanna be able to follow their character arcs and see what happens. And then the show just makes the most boring character of all time. These are so boring. These characters are so boring. And we talked about this. We talked about it already. Randy's girlfriend, the Asian girl with no name and no personality.
Mhm.
At least that was something. Okay, at least that was like a burgeoning relationship. That was happening, that you could have seen maybe play out throughout a couple of seasons, sorry, a couple of episodes more, and see like, okay, maybe this happens and that happens, and it's like he's pulled between normalcy and being like a horror geek, something going on.
she
Meanwhile,
could she could have been a totally serviceable girlfriend character, right? But it's
exactly,
like she
but then
she
she
like
dies.
well, A, like she dies, right? But then B, it's like when I say serviceable girlfriend character, right? Like I
Yeah,
mean like when you're watching a horror film, right?
exactly.
There are some horror films where it's like the inherent misogyny of just having like a girlfriend who is only there to be a girlfriend, right? There are people who will just kind of go, whatever, this happens because of expedient storytelling, not so much like, they careless writing, right? And it's like that has its own problems, and we can get into those conversations, right? But we're not going to do that because we're talking about this. And the problem with this is she is saddled up with a guy who is horrible, right? Like this is a 2015 piece of media, right? And he is the most like millennial. Well,
You,
me lady, I thinks that we are going to watch The Exorcist tonight. Like he is the worst person. Like
he, it was so
repellent.
funny to see his favorite movie. You know,
What was it again? What was his favorite movie again?
Tron
Oh, of course. Yes, that's right. But I'm with him,
ratings
like that.
programs.
This is post Tron Legacy. If he's riding for Tron over Tron Legacy, I'm with him.
That's like, oh my god, he's making us Tron heads look terrible. But no, the thing about that is that that's if you're gonna save one character, save that one because it's something at least with the character they save, which is let's call her Tatum. All
You're
right,
talking about Brooke, right? The
Brooke.
one who's sleeping with her teacher,
Right,
right? Like we're
exactly.
just
Because like let's drag that out. Let's just
yeah,
drag that
it's
out.
crazy. They're like literally, they're like because you can tell whoever made this show is sick in the head, right? And they literally just wanted to drag that shit out. And every time there's a sequence where it's like someone might die right now, they always put Brooke in that situation. And it's like, is this the scene that Brooke's gonna die? And to yourself, you're like, there's no way that Brooke's gonna die because they've kept her alive for this long. And the show does it like 4 different times. It's like it's the same fucking gimmick every time.
Because she's like the hot chick in a slasher film. See, like, oh, we're gonna keep playing that button. It's just a cliche. It's not going against the cliche if you keep on doing it and you're saying, nah, psych. You gotta do it,
Mhm.
okay? Otherwise, it just becomes you being annoying. I will say one thing, and this is something that I
Mhm.
found out the first time I watched the show, like ages after it came out. And I thought it was very interesting. But the actress who plays Brooke, the Tatum character, uh, she made her own movie back in
She made
2020.
her own movie.
Yeah, she wrote, directed it. Okay, and the reason why I think this is interesting is that it's an adaptation of the Blazing World. You ever heard of Blazing World?
Sorry, could you break me down what this is exactly? Because this sounds insane.
The Blazing World is the world's first science fiction novel, written in
Oh my god.
1666. She adapted a version of it herself. She wrote, directed it, produced it, um, and she plans on making it into a trilogy. By all, by all, by
Good
all,
for her. That's
exactly.
amazing.
By all reviews, it seems to be generally pretty bland. But like, you know what? Swing. That's better than being in another season of the Scream show. That's
Hey,
interesting. That's interesting.
you know, when you tell me that, I hear passion. I
Exactly.
hear like there is something, in that brain where she's like, this is what drives me. And you know what? That makes me smile. That makes me
Yeah.
happy that
Yeah.
she's following her dream,
Yeah. Like
And to that
swing.
I say I'm really happy for her. Will I watch that? Maybe never, but it also sounds really funny. So I may watch it. Who knows? And also I will say about the actress who plays not Tatum or Brooke, whatever you want to call her. She also is a good actress. Like I feel as though she actually understands that she's been given nothing and that she has to just be like a likable performer for possible fodder. And I'm glad that she sticks around mainly because the performer is so good. But to continue with your point, it's like why kill random Asian GF to not Randy when like that was one of the most non-ironic like sweet elements of the show. Even if I didn't like the components, it's like that was clearly the thing that was like, oh hey, like that's actually kind of sweet. To keep this whole like teacher love thing going on, I don't want to see it. It's ugly, it's gross. The fact that it keeps coming back all the way up to the last episode, it's like this is the reason why Brooke was kept alive, and that feels like it's gross. Halfway through the show, I'm like, yeah, I like Brooke and I'm fine with her still being alive. Maybe she'll get killed later. Who knows? But the fact that she gets to the end and it's only for those means, it's really nasty.
Like she has no other character arc at all. Like you think that maybe there's something to go on with like the mother and the red herring with her father. Maybe there's some sort of reconciliation there. They tether that together. But like her parents appear like 3 episodes before the end. Her mother never even shows up. So that doesn't even matter at all at that point.
Oh my god, the whole like, oh, my dad may have killed my mother subplot. I was like, give me a gun. I want to put it in my mouth right now. That shit was awful. Like, if you've watched even one television show, you can see that shit coming from a mile away.
The thing about that though is that the mother not showing up kind of ruins that subplot because this follows Scream 3 rules in a lot of ways, in that there is a magical voice changing app that can sound like
Oh my
anyone,
god.
right? So when she's like speaking to her mom on the phone, that's not like vindication that her mom's alive. You had the mother show up, and then we know that
That's
she's
true.
alive.
Pixar didn't happen, right?
It's
Like
like,
that's a common problem on the show. There's so many weird, like huge important characters that we either like never see or we only see for like a scene. And it's so
or
insane. It's like
or
why
or only
why
show up in
are
the
these
imagination.
yeah, it's like why are these characters who are so important like given such little screen time? Like why would you design your show this way when you have such a large cast already?
Like because the cast itself is very superfluous. They don't know what they're doing. Like it's like, right. So let me say one thing. With Teen Wolf, there's a compare Teen Wolf, the obvious progenitor of this predecessor of this show, right?
Yeah.
Teen Wolf. The thing about that, the movie Teen Wolf is a slice of life comedy, right? Slice of life. Like it's just like him and his coming of little age story and all these little vignettes of his life being a teen wolf. Oh no, I had a teen party. Things got out of hand. I made out this chick, or the big game, or the dance, or me getting drunk driving. Teen stuff,
Uh-oh,
right?
that's rough.
Right? Um, Teen stuff, and then that's easy to port to a show because, well, that's like, oh, he doesn't become a werewolf, but his teen stuff getting influenced by him being a teen wolf. But then also they have this whole myth arc, whatever. That show is boring as hell. But like it's easier to port into like a
Yeah.
serialized but also episodic frame. Um, with this, it's like, okay, let's just make a lot of soap It's just fill up with soap. This is soapy as hell.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, this feels like an opera for sure.
like oh no, like my dad who's the mayor is caught in this scandal, or my dad who's the sheriff is caught in this scandal, or my mom who's who's like the medical examiner is caught in this scandal. Oh my god. It's like this.
Why are we repeating Scream 2 beats for a Scream 1 season? You
Oh,
know? Like, why does this need to like have so much importance held on the past?
I have no idea. Um, let's see here. Let's just look. I think let's get into
Actually, before you move on, there was something that you were drilling on there that I wanted to dig into as
oh,
well, right?
go
Like,
go.
so what was that other show you were just referencing?
Teen Wolf.
Exactly. So Teen Wolf, everything that you just explained about Teen Wolf, right? While it may not be super original, right? While we may say like, "Oh, how corny is it to just do all these teen things, but with a wolf," right? Whatever, right? At least it resembles some kind of reality. The
Yes.
major problem with the Scream TV show is that it does not resemble any kind of reality in terms of like a small community or like a high school, and none of the people who worked on this show or who are like performing the show, it doesn't feel like anybody has any kind of experience with that exactly. And the thing that will make the Friday the 13th show interesting when watching it is how close it will be to something that is relatable to the human experience, because that's the thing that makes slashers scary when you are,
Bates
caught
Motel.
off foot. There you go. Exactly. Right. Because that, like, I haven't watched much of that show. Right. But at the same time, what I've heard from fans of that show is they found ways to like keep that Hitchcock spirit alive, where they can kind of like draw out a reveal or like have the audience know something and then play it out for a beat until it comes back later. At least something like that is more considerate. Am I mistaken in saying that about Bates Motel?
Well, no, because I think that Hitchcock himself was very melodramatic. So Bates Motel
Yeah,
season to
exactly.
season does play out a little bit similar to like Desperate Housewives. Where there's like overarching seasonal arc that is very traditional, but the way it plays with it inside the season can be very fun and very kind of clever. And I gotta say that should have been the thinking, the mindset that went into Scream. Okay, because I don't mind these will be elements, but
Mhm.
they're all tangential. They nothing has anything with anything. Okay, like the sheriff might have been a corrupt cop and an abusive drug addict. Who cares? That has nothing to do with anything. Oh, the mayor is like worried about a political career. He's running for re-election, and his wife is a drug addict. Who cares? That has nothing to do with anything. How
There
about
are
like
two shows that this show reminded me the most of. The two shows were Euphoria and Leftovers. Have you seen both of them?
no, first because no leftovers because I'm waiting for the Tracy Flick movie to come out before I binge that guy's work, Tom Bergeron's work.
Oh, sorry. What's the movie that they're coming out with?
The Flick movie, the sequel to Election. I'm waiting for that to come out. Then I'll binge all the stuff based on Tom whatever his name is work. Uh,
Sure, you're a
Tom Parada.
completionist.
Tom
I get
Parada.
it.
There we go.
I respect that, but what I will say is, in the Leftovers, they do the same romantic subplot thing where it's like the mother, like the parent and the kid are hooking up with the father and the son of another family. Like that beat is in the Leftovers, and then Euphoria. There are like several like specific beats that are in the first season of Euphoria that are also in this show. I like, you have not seen Euphoria?
No, I have no compunction to, man. I'm not.
I will defend it. But one thing I will say about Euphoria is like season one is great, and then season two is a filmmaker who is given all of the resources and they have no idea what to do with them. So it's
Uh,
really interesting to
you know
watch
what?
from that
But you
perspective.
know what? To get the real experience, I should probably watch the Israeli original first.
Exactly.
I got. I'm a completionist. I gotta
You-
get on. I gotta get on the BPN to Israel and and watch it. What the fuck am I saying?
the thing that people say online when they're like, "Oh, this thing is spiritually Israeli," right? Like, I feel like that's almost kind of like a hack critique at this point, right? Because it's like they kind of just say that for anything that's maximalist. With Euphoria, nah, that's kind of spiritually used, really, if I've ever seen it.
All right. But you know what? Let's talk about the actual story here, man. Such as it is.
What
Um,
story?
it it's I know you did last summer meets Friday the 13th. This is not a Scream story. This
No,
is
it's not.
it's literally I know you did last summer and Friday the 13th mashed together. Um,
Yeah.
I
And
do
all the meta commentary things that Scream is known for is kept as like, monologues that are isolated for the either
flourishes.
the beginnings of the episode or the endings of the episode.
They're just there to be there. Like like
Mhm.
he it reminds me of like when I was in high school, right? And I do like an essay, for like literature for like one of my English classes about like comparative literature. Comparative literature. Like you gotta compare these things. Run a theme against them. I'd be like, well, my stupid high school mind was like, I know what the themes are. Why don't you compare the books together? Like why do I need to do that? I know what the themes are of these
Mhm.
books. Why not? Why can't I just write an essay about the themes? So I would just write an essay about the themes and then like every a couple of paragraphs of like, and as the book blank says, and then continues writing the fucking essay. Uh, didn't really work all that well because it was a stupid way to write an essay when you're trying to talk about like two mm, works in contrast or comparison to each other, and that's how this show is written. Whenever it drops something like the Randy will be like, like in How I Get Away with Murder, that has nothing to do with the episode. That's nothing to do with anything. Why you bring it up?
Mhm.
Because it's a show about people getting killed. That's the only reason you're bringing this show up. Or The
It-
Walking Dead. Oh my god!
yeah. The references are bordering on not horror, which is very bizarre, right? Like Walking Dead is a horror show, but it's also like it's almost like Lost, where it's like about the characters and it's an ensemble, right? The zombies are peripheral,
You know why?
but
Because
mhm.
there's not a lot of horror TV shows, and they mentioned Teen Wolf.
Yeah,
It gets too incestuous. They don't want okay. They want to be like dropping Teen Wolf and like oh people get annoyed. I would get annoyed if they drop Teen Wolf, but that is the reference they should be making is comparing themselves to Teen Wolf.
look, the thing is honestly, like if someone were to pull a dump truck up to my house, right, and there were to be like, here is like, because even a thing like this, like, probably costs like $20 million, right? Maybe a bit less than that, right? Somebody comes up to me with me, you know what? Actually, I'll drop it down a bit, maybe 15 million for this, right? If somebody gave me $15 million to make a Scream season of television, right? I feel like there are so many things that can come up just in the idea phase alone that are so much easier, cleaner, and more concise with like what this franchise is, rather than trying to like create a homunculus that like matches pre-existing things that exist within like MTV genre, right? This is trying to be like Pretty Little Liars or like
They
any
bring up
other kind
Pretty
of little Scream
Liars.
thing more than Scream. Sorry, go ahead.
They bring up Pretty Liars too.
Of course, because that's the model, right? Scream was known for being like, we're going to revitalize and recontextualize and revolutionize horror films, right? And this show talks a lot of game, as we've already pointed out, about like doing something new and then doesn't deliver, right? It's like, why would you put yourself in the position to do that without having the goods to back it up, right? You're putting, and it's not even like they had all bad ideas. There's one thing I want to get into soon, which is Ghostface themselves, because I think that there's actually some good ideas there, but it's the
You know
things
what?
surrounding it that make it worse.
Let's talk about the story. Now feed
Sure,
naturally
yes.
into Ghostface. Okay.
Like the thing is like I didn't even know we were going to do a beat by beat thing because like
I
I feel
I
like this is
I don't even know if we're gonna do the Big thing. I just want to talk about the story so we can say we
sure,
talked
sure.
about it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Court mandated. We discussed the
Because
story
like
about the Scream
what
series.
is this? Like what is this show about? We haven't even done that yet. Because the show is about nothing. It's
About
like Seinfeld.
spinning tires in mud. That's what the show is.
Okay, well, so as we mentioned, it's I Know You Last Summer and Friday the 13th mashed together, including the poor water death. Back in the 80s, way back in the 1980s, okay, there was this deformed pumpkin head child who was a teenager, and he had a crush on this girl, and the girl's friends were all bullies to him. And then on Halloween night, they pranked him really badly, and he went on a murderous rampage and got killed by the cops. and then he became an urban legend. And now in the highfalutin 2010s, it seems like he's back. He's back for revenge. Um, and the teens are here, and some for some reason. That's the show. That's the story. Um,
Yeah, pretty much.
he's back. He's back. That's it.
Yeah. And when this show opens with like the whole like him getting shot on the pier, and it's is shot with the Vaseline on the lens as if it was shot in the 40s, right? Like as soon as I was watching that, I was like, oh no, we are in trouble. There is no reason for them to do any kind of like lineage thing. And the reason I keep repeating that point is because like it needlessly complicates the plot to the point where it needs to do an intergenerational mystery thing, to the degree where it's like anybody could be the killer, which sure in theory it's like should keep us on our toes, but the entire time we're like, we know that this has to be someone who's younger, and we know that it has to be somebody who like is tuned into all of the lore of all these things. So like when it comes to like actually understanding who could be the killer for this, it becomes very easy to spot early on, which is a shame because like some of the ideas that it has in like what it could be saying are not like horrible. You know what I mean? We'll get into it further. What are your thoughts on what I just said?
And I totally agree because in one, it becomes very obvious what you're ripping off. Okay, and like it becomes really obvious. It becomes embarrassing, and two, it creates two distinct narrative tracks. It's like the adults and the teens. But I'm gonna say it.
Exactly.
I don't care about the adults, or I don't care about the teens. They're both very boring. I would say choose a lane. Hey, you know what?
Exactly.
Like, do like, oh, the scenes of the past. It's about parents trying to protect their teens. Maybe the parents are like a little bit out of touch. All they know are like 90s slasher films, and maybe that's where the scrape stuff comes in. Where like
Mhm.
they're like they know like oh man, it's just like 90s or 80s horror movie reference, shit like that. Like, oh, you're preying on the fact that it's nostalgia for like for another age. It's nostalgia, like all that kind of shit. Like you're mentioning Halloween, Friday the 13th, like in the original movie. That was like a generation from them, at that age. So
Mhm.
play with that somewhat, or teens, teen now, teen, whatever. They're the actual main characters anyway. Just focus on fucking them. Um,
I
make
feel
them.
like the teens are the obvious answer, right? Because like the reason that there was this dividing point between like the adults and the kids, at least within the original Scream movies, is that like Scream 4, right? They needed
Yeah.
to keep the legacy characters around
Yeah.
because that was what made it a Scream movie, right? There,
Mhm.
there, there is no reason to have that delineation point when you're making a teen drama series. If
Exactly.
because that's what this should be. This needs to be Pretty Little Liars. This needs to be Dawson's Creek. So why are we trying to muddy this up with like a coroner who's hooking up with a sheriff? Like that's the least interesting parts of the show the entire time.
Yeah, I know. It. I don't. I think it's because they. I'm gonna say it. They want the old people to watch too. Okay, like, oh,
But
Scream is an
what
old
old person's
franchise
tuning into MTV News, like
because
MTV,
because
right?
of
Like that's
Scream.
the stupid.
Because Scream is an old franchise.
Oh
They
my
want.
god.
Here's something for the kids, and then here's something for the old people who watched the original. That's what their
Yeah,
thinking was.
Harvey and Bob, like, this is why they should burn in hell forever, for multiple reasons, but this is one of them, right? Where it's like, no, they don't. I feel like the Scream, like, we're talking about this because we're being completionists about this, right? I don't feel like there are like many Scream fans who were hoodwinked into watching this. I feel like everyone saw what this was and they're like, oh, yeah, let's steer clear of this one. This has stink lines like in comic books.
I can't think of anything that impressed me at all. There's nothing impressive. Like,
Well, let's talk about the killer because
okay,
because I because there are many positive things I want to say about this iteration of Ghostface.
I'll say
And
I'll start. I want to say something.
sure, go
I
for it.
like the mask. I like the
That's what
mask.
I was going to say. I
Okay,
think this mask is brilliant.
it's a great mask. I don't like
Mhm.
anything. I don't like the context in both
Mhm.
ways about the mask. One, I think it's really funny that the reason they did this is because they didn't want to pay Fun World any licensing fees for the TV show, and that's very
Well,
funny.
I applaud them for taking that route because that's baller in my books. But continue.
But also, I think that's tied to a really, really stupid uh, contrivances in the show. But the mask is fine. Like if hey, him making it like it feels like they really tried hard to like make an interpretation of the original Ghostface mask that wasn't too lame because you if you that's really
Mhm.
hard to do because they tried to do that for the original movie. They didn't want to pay Fun World any money for the first movie, so they had like all these like legally similar masks made up, right?
Mhm.
And they all stunk. I feel like this is pretty good. If you went back in time and to the first movie and said, "Hey, how about this?" they would have gone for it because this is actually a pretty good
Yeah.
mask.
Well, if we're just talking about the mask itself from an aesthetic standpoint, right? Like this looks like something out of the Poughkeepsie tapes, right?
Yes,
And
it's
and,
eerie.
and I feel like and exactly, it's eerie, it's uncanny, and the thing is, there's enough detail to where you can figure out what the facial structure is, but then it's uncanny because it's all white and the shadows, the way like I'm looking at the poster right now, and you can literally just go off of this, right? It does really well in photography, which is really great when you have a show that has no budget, right? And that's why that stuff always works. But then to continue with this point, right? Like, let's go back to the first episode, right? When we were talking about the Scream movies and we were talking about
Yeah,
Ghostface Mask, right? The interesting thing about Ghostface Mask was that it was so generic, right? That it could have been anyone, that it was like something that you could find at like any kind of like Spirit Halloween. That was what made it good. And I think that that exact same idea applies to this mask here. And I think that actually, like, whether they intended it or not, it has that kind of baked in, like it doesn't have any kind of iconography. The mask itself doesn't matter. It's actually who's killing that matters more. And it's that promise that is under delivered that makes this season of television such a tough pill to swallow.
I get what you mean. It's like it's very blank. You know, it's not evocative. You know, I feel exactly what you mean because I think a lot of like new modern slashers, like we're gonna reinvent the slasher genre, like Blumhouse or 24 makes or anything like that. When they make like this is the new face of horror, it's like so
Mhm.
detailed and so specific. It's lame to me. Honestly, I think it's one of the reasons why I don't like like the Grabber or Art. Like
Mhm.
those are too detailed and too specific.
I
Um,
think the best comparison would be like Nightmare on Elm Street, the original versus the remake, where it's like the remake does technically look good, but do I think that he's as scary as the original? No, I don't. I think that
no.
the artifice actually can bring out something that is scarier. Wouldn't you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, no, I agree because I think Freddy he works a little bit more because the original look is so like just like impactful for what it looks like. It wouldn't like it's so specific. It's so unique to what Freddy is that becomes like this is something that you're seeing in a dream. And I do
Mhm.
like the remake. I do like the remake. I'm a
Yeah,
remake
I
booster.
like the remake as well. Like I'm with you there, where it's
But
not
like
like a
but
terrible movie,
but
but it makes some major missteps.
but making it more realistic while technically I think a good idea it really robs it of any kind of impact or power. Yeah, I definitely agree.
I'm not saying this because Jackie Earl Haley worked with them already, but like honestly, Todd Field would have made a great Nightmare on Elm Street film. Like I feel like if Todd Field were to go up to bat and like fully follow through on this idea of what if like a pedophile was also like the serial killer coming to people in their dreams, then it would work because that's what the reboot wanted to be. That was explicit goal, but it failed at doing so because it didn't want to commit when it got too gross, right? And it's like if you went the
You
full way
you
with
can feel
a Todd Field,
you can
it
feel
would have worked.
you can feel the machete coming down in that editing room on like a bunch of
Exactly.
stuff.
Mhm.
Release the unrated cut of that movie. Release hashtag release it. I'm into it.
but
Um,
but also like when it comes back to the Scream thing, right? Like one thing I want to say about the killer in this, right? And I'm gonna full because like look, we've been kind of dancing around. I
Brandon
think that we
James,
should. Sorry.
Brandon James, you mean, or the actual killer?
Oh well, I want to talk about who the killer is in this Under the Mask, right?
Roman,
Because sorry.
Roman.
Well, no, I'm talking about like it should have been Barry Weiss, like like this
Oh my god!
podcaster, right?
Oh my god! You're
Uh,
right.
uh,
That's
so
classes.
so like the reason I'm even bringing up Barry Weiss is because even like 2015 Barry Weiss, like that like would have worked for this, right? And I'm much of a loser to know exactly who she was back then. But when it comes to her place, and sorry to spoil it for the audience at home, but also at the same time, you came into this, who cares about the TV series of Scream? But what I'm saying about her and having her be the killer, I think the idea of having like a podcast host who analyzes true crime, I think that that itself is a great way of bringing it to the Scream generation, and especially
Right.
for 2015. Like podcasting as a thing in 2015 is actually quite new in terms of like fictional media. The problem is actually in how they try to do like the whole family line
They
thing
do
when they
Scream
try to
3
make it
again.
so she's related. Exactly. They do Scream 3 again, and it's like, why does this need to be a thing? Because this is all stuff that happened mostly off screen. Like, we don't care about this stuff because we didn't get the prior entry that you're referencing. That could have been its own season of television.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree. Okay, because you're right. Like just removing the family stuff, right? Keeping her as just like like this podcaster, like Nightcrawler style. You're just making the story, right?
Always at the scene of the crime as
Yeah,
it's happening.
yeah, like all of that stuff. It's let me say it like it kind of like we say it all the time. I think we say it every episode. Scream is about the media, right? It is.
Exactly. It
Right.
is.
Like so that like dovetails neatly. That is like the one entry point they kind of landed ass backwards in by accident, and then because it's by accident, they don't do anything with it. Her being the
Yes.
killer and also being a podcaster reporting on the killings has no relevance to each
But
other.
it should,
It did.
especially consider when you consider the fact that if we're doing the whole parallel thing, right? Essentially, what this series posits is that Gail was the killer. So we have a Scream movie where they make Gail the killer, and I think that that's interesting. I
It
think that that
is.
would have been an interesting way to go with the first Scream movie. I like what Gail is doing in those movies, and I'm glad that she's not the killer in the original series. That being said, like, to go down this route is not a bad idea at
It's
all.
a natural extension of the themes. Like you have like this obsession with media. Why not like media created news? Like we're seeing that again. We're seeing that now. Media creating the news, being the news,
Mhm.
enforcing that perspective. She's doing this to enforce perspective that feels that that is on that is in the public consciousness.
Mhm.
Brandon James and all that shit. Like that could have been like her black and white view of things. Um,
And again, this is 2015, right?
yes,
Like, this is like right at the same time that like people were being radicalized by the shit on the internet, like this is like pre-Gamergate even, right? Like the fact that all of the pieces are there and that they're so close to being right, but they're muddled because they're trying to do legacy sequel shit for for a legacy sequel for an original that doesn't exist, right? They just invented it to muddy the waters for themselves. It's so infuriating because it's actually so close to being right.
now you kind of even want to like remake this show, man. And it's kind of fucking insane that
Oh, poor unfortunate soul to
now it's kind
take up
of,
remaking this show.
like, but also it's kind of insane that none of the movies picked up on this yet.
This, like, that's what I'm getting at, right? Is that this actually is so much closer to like what the intent of the original Scream was for a modern era, even more so than for, right? The problem is that the people who are making it lack the perspective to actually like mine into these things in an actually creative and interesting way. So instead, what we get is a facsimile of things that already exist,
But
rather
we
than
got
taking the things that they came up with in the first meeting and drilling into those in the appropriate ways.
we gotta talk. We gotta spend more time on the brooding bad boy, um,
Oh no.
and like and I don't know what else happens in the fucking show. Nothing happens in the show. Nothing happens in this show.
Well, you're talking to. We should talk about like the love triangle between like
Which love
not
triangle?
Sydney, well, not Sydney and like her boyfriend who sucks, and the guy who's like the bad boy, but
Who also
also he's
sucks.
actually, yeah, he sucks because he's just like not telling her things and he's being shady as fuck for no reason whatsoever. And it's like for large portions of the series, we're supposed to consider that he's the killer, and it's like, yeah, you are moving in weird ways. don't act like that if you don't want to be considered to be the killer. Like, you're being weird right now.
Hey, brooding bad boys move in mysterious ways, that's how we know they exist.
No, when you're showing up to places, pointing the gun in the face of the person you want to sleep with, I don't trust you. Like that's just an ingrained thing.
Let's talk about the love triangle, okay? Because this is one
Yeah.
of the things that not Randy, points out. Like
Mhm.
you gotta be invested in whether or not the girl gives her boyfriend a second chance or gets with the mysterious hot stranger. You know, I'm not
Fundamental problem of this series.
is that I cannot that they're not worth investing in. The only interesting thing that ever happens with the three of them is when Ghostface puts him into a saw trap, the boyfriend into a saw trap, and she kills him.
Amazing.
She kills him, and like that is the only interesting and fun part of this entire show.
Yeah, like so like you're talking about the ending of episode 7, which is like she's like we've already had dream sequences at this point, right? We've already had like, fake outs, and the way that the sequence is filmed, it's just he's strapped to a chair, there's like a giant blade behind him, and she's just like in the field, and she runs towards him, and she hits a tripwire, and it just cuts him in half, and like, it's so absurd. It's more gory than anything that's been in a Scream movie before or
And we
since.
see it
And
later. We see his body later. It's so good.
it comes out of no, it feels like a joke, and it's played totally straight. Like, it's so
So
stupid
cruel.
how they decided to do it. Yeah, it's cruel because, like, obviously that guy sucked,
Yeah.
and she should have broken up with him a long time ago. But the reason that she didn't break up with him is because the writers wanted to mine more from this love triangle. So it's like the performer already is kind of moving in the direction of the wild guy, right? Because, like, he's clearly the more healthy option. But even then, it's like this guy sucks big time. Like, Will is his name. Is that
Yeah.
what?
The
Yeah. So
boyfriend, yeah, Will.
so
Don't you
so Will
understand?
is like,
But don't you understand? He wasn't a willing part of that revenge porn operation for pedophiles.
oh, sure, yeah.
Oh my
Like,
god, can we just say that? That was porn for pedophiles that they're selling on the black market.
and the amount of times that they're just like, oh well, I didn't watch it. I never really watched it. The fact that they do
They have,
that so many
they
times, I'm
have
like,
so
that's
many
so fucked
videos.
up.
They have so many videos that they're deleting them all. Like you deleted them. You had like CP on your
Mhm.
laptop, man. You're gonna go.
Again, every episode opens with the Bob and Harvey Weinstein credit, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, Jesus Christ, it really is always a top-down issue here.
But I do think it's really funny. It's cruel because like she gets like yeah, she's a nice girl, and he's trying really hard. Don't worry about the child porn thing. He's trying real hard to like to get back to redeem himself. And she's like they're gonna get together. Like it's like she just dies. He just dies trying to get it together. I love that shit. I love that kind of rug pull. It's the only funny thing. Only funny thing.
And I love that, like, like maybe like episode 3, right? We're like done with Will. We're like, this guy sucks. He shouldn't be with not Sydney. I don't care if he lives or dies. But they keep him alive till the end of episode 7, and they keep on doing this thing where it's like she's over him, but then he says something like, "Come over and eat curry and watch The Maze Runner," and and
Hey,
and she's like,
she's a
I
teenage
gotta be back with him.
girl. She's a teenage
Yeah,
girl, man.
sure.
Okay,
Sure.
you think you know better than the minds over at MTV, huh? About teenagers?
Hey, I was manipulated at that same age for a lot less. So,
Me too.
like,
Me too.
I'll go with that. I'll go with
Uh,
that.
okay, but it's like that's you know what would have helped is if they could have buttressed that with some more Asian girlfriend padding.
You're saying more Asian girlfriends,
Exactly.
several Asian girlfriends.
Yeah, not Randy should have been like just plug in it. All
Well,
episodes. Every episode, she got a new girlfriend that got murdered. You know,
see, that's really funny because you're proposing an idea where the methinks character gets to like have sex with different women every episode, which would be very funny. But when it comes to like this idea that they are supposed to like, I'm losing the train of thought I had here. But essentially what I was going to
very
get at
common
here
with the
was,
show.
Yeah, no, the show itself doesn't even do that. But what I will say about that character is that like he is so like explicitly gross,
He
and the
is.
show is trying to like make him seem cool in his nerdiness because they think that nerd is cool. But again, we invoked him already. This is like Elon Musk kind of nerd. This is like Big Bang Theory kind of nerd, where it's like any kind of person that you meet like this in public, it's like locker time. Get in the locker, buddy.
Hey, geek is chic. Okay, you don't understand. um, okay, but let's talk about the next elephant in the room. Okay, we thought of the mask. Very good mask, and we all enjoy it. Um, the second elephant in the room is that, my God, this is the most annoying nasally Ghostface voice of all time.
Big issue, right? One thing I do like about the show, and one thing I actually wish they did more, and this is going to sound crazy, I think when they use text messages, it works better.
Yes, it
I
does.
That's a great way of modernizing Scream. I think that that's something that even Wes Craven would have been a fan of, and something that they didn't even do in 4 too much, right? Where it's like, I want to have it so Ghostface doesn't have to be calling you, that he could be just texting you. That itself is great. It almost is mining from the same
It's like
field
catfishing,
as,
you know?
well, there's catfishing, but did you ever see Personal Shopper, the Kristen Stewart film?
I've heard of it.
Okay, I'm going to fill you in. Okay, so this is not spoiling much about this film, but there's an amazing sequence that happens about 30 minutes in, because the whole movie is about how like she's this personal shopper, but then there's also ghosts, right? And there's a sequence where she's on the train and she's getting texts from somebody who could be her brother who's deceased. And the whole thing is about a possible ghost texting somebody on a train, and it's terrifying. And it's like, that's how you can actually make text scary. And this show accidentally almost breaches into that same realm with how it uses text messages. But the key word there is accidentally. I don't think that it's cognizant of how close it is to the point.
No, because it automatically drops that to do like a standard Ghostface thing. And you know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. If it wasn't for that voice, that first initial Ghostface call would have been pretty good. His
And
voice is
also,
so
like,
annoying.
another thing, why is he doing an imitation of the original voice, right? Like, why wouldn't they do a different voice? Like,
Right. Like it sounds like it sounds lame by comparison. It's inviting comparison itself.
they're doing the same kind of like, obviously the characters are not the same, but they're doing the same kind of like, hey, what are you gonna do, Sydney? Where your friends are gonna die, and like it's the same kind of incantation, of the words. It's just it's inauthentic in terms of how people speak, and it works in the original Scream because there's the artifice is kind of part of the point. And in something like this, where it's trying to do more grounded, more serious, more weighty subject matter, to continue to go in this cartoonish direction, it feels totally out of step, especially when you've changed the mask this drastically.
No, I totally agree. Like if it would have been like a calmer, like more regular voice, I would have totally been fine with it. But it does feel like, oh, you're gonna die, Sydney. Like, oh, don't you understand? Like, I'm coming for you. Like, I don't care, man. It's not like a regular person. That would have been more scary. It would have been felt more real. That's why I like the idea of that call, because like she's having a normal conversation with like someone that she trusts, like a authority figure, and whole thing with authority figures could have been handled a lot better too. Okay, in this show,
Oh,
because
there's a whole problem with power dynamics here.
yeah, because like the original series at this point, because it's after Scream 4, so let's just call it original series. Before RS, BC, there. It's about authority figures. Like, what you can trust them. The kids are not all right. We said last time, and the kids are never all right in these movies, and they can't trust anyone. Not for like incompetency, but just you just can't. In the situation, you really have to rely on yourself. So I like the idea. I like that she's putting trust in this adult figure someone that she doesn't know, but implicitly because of the power structure, right? And then it just
Mhm.
turns sour. I think that works a lot better than like, oh, I'm a like just a wrong number, but I think you're hot, Drew Barrymore. Get in line. Um, uh, and so I really like that, but it's just ruined by just the corniness of it all.
Mhm. Well, we gotta point out how the original Scream series, right? Like obviously separate from what it becomes with Scream 3, etc. It starts out with this idea that it's like existing within the real world and that slasher films exist within this world, right? And that there's some degree of like inherent knowledge that comes with that, right? And what the major problem with the show, right, is like while we get like name drops of like specific movies and things, like even the movies that they reference, they're more in relation to how like things in their life are close to the events of those things, right? Like there's a Gone Girl reference in this, right? And it's like, sure, it's close to Gone Girl, right? But it's like instead of getting a Gone Girl reference, I want to hear like more like the Exorcist thing, right? Where it's like that's something that tells me about that character. And then also like you could extrapolate from there how it relates to this plot. But instead, what this show does is like use that as name drops and shortcuts to the for the audience where it's like, hey, we know the good stuff. And it's like, of course you know what The Exorcist is. The Exorcist is like one of the most financially successful shows of all time, movies of all time in the horror genre. Like, get out of town.
You're right, because Randy has no personality. His favorite movie's Tron.
Yeah.
He's talking about Walking Dead. He's talking about How to Get Your Murder. He's talking about Pretty Little Liars. He's talking about all this shit. Like, well, that doesn't mean anything. It's just like he's a Wikipedia soundboard. They don't know what makes Randy work. You know.
Worse than Wikipedia. He's just the writers of this show spitballing on the screen. I've heard people compare a movie like Deadpool versus the Wolverine to like a business boardroom meeting, right? And this show feels like a boardroom meeting in many ways. How it's just like, yeah, here's all the things that are relevant. Here's all the things we should comment about right now, and it's like it has no bearing in reality in whatever sense it was supposed to have. And it's like even though Wes Craven may have been off the ball a few times making those previous Scream films, at least they were trying to comment upon like an existing psychology.
No, I definitely agree because you mentioned like heavy topics. Let's get into some of those right now. Okay, because um Scream, if not anything else, is about has tackled heavy topics. Okay, trauma, PTSD, media influencing on children, adults, perceptions of society, rape, and all that kind of stuff. Um, this show, you mentioned so many topics. This show washed over me. We've already brought up the fact that there is a child porn ring in this show. We talked about that there's a pedophile teacher in this show. Um, what other ones does it bring up that it totally whiffs at?
Well, like there's also like the whole hate crime to queer people thing that happens at
Oh
the
my
start of
god,
the show.
I forgot.
like
The
that's like the
vicarious one.
inciting incident, and you get like main characters on the show being like, hey, well, I like watching some girl on girl high five, am I right, brother? Well, it's trying to have like serious conversations about consent. It's nuts.
Oh right, and then she gets like murdered, and one of the lesbians gets murdered, and the people stop
Mhm.
caring after that episode.
Yeah, we'll have to crack into Aubrey specifically later on because there's something that we get at the end of this season that's very funny. But when it comes to what this whole like hate crime slash thing that starts the season where it's like there's a scandal where two
Okay,
women make out and the video goes online, and honestly I think that that's a great hook for a new Scream show. I feel like that is a way of modernizing it in a way that Scream 4 couldn't, and in a way that, does feel a bit true to life, especially in the fact that like the video itself doesn't get more than a few hundred views. Like it's not like the stupid thing where it's like, oh, it got 1 million views and then we had to shut it down. It's like, no, like 300 people watched it. They had to shut it down, but 300 people's enough to where it's like the whole school knows, you know?
hmm but let's see here. What was I gonna say? Um, shit, I lost my train of thought about this. I did.
No, well, let's keep going with this hate crime, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah.
like the whole show is predicated around like Aubrey went through a hate crime with everybody here, and she has to slowly, one by one, forgive all of these people because they saved her from a life or death situation. And I think that that's very strange that the people who wrote the show made that a priority. where like every scene there has to be like a okay, now here's where Aubrey forgives Brooke, and now here's where she has to forgive not Sydney. Like they just keep on going down the rung where it's like Aubrey, while she was the one who was inflicted pain, she has to be the one who forgives everybody.
Right. And let's let's circle back to what this show is about, the plot. Okay, we talked about the whole thing about like the adults. So let's talk more about this. Okay, so as you mentioned, there was a video taken of these two high schoolers making out, two high school girls. It got spread viral, and then the person who spread the video gets horribly murdered in their pool, and their boyfriend gets his head chopped up, and his body disappears, and everyone's a suspect. Who could it be? An obvious suspect are the girls who got humiliated, and then one of them gets murdered off screen. And yeah, and so like, oh, but it could be her, or who could it be? And you're right. A lot of that is very facile. It doesn't really delve into like the actual character basis of that. As you mentioned with Sydney, what makes Sydney such a powerful character is that it takes her trauma like very seriously. Audrey, right? Audrey's character, but they keep calling her bi-curious every freaking episode. Um, it
But
becomes
she's a lesbian.
yeah, she's a lesbian. What they're gonna say bi-curious? Just have her and Randy bang. Just have her bang him. Just bang him. Okay.
This is something that I'll get into later. But continue with your point.
All right. So and so like you mentioned, it just becomes like it just loses the the initial impact of that. It becomes less about that. As I mentioned, no one here has any comprehensive memory. Every episode feels like it's starting fresh, starting from point one.
You're so right. It's because it's like the thing that was revealed in the last episode needs to be the most important thing. Therefore, the initial inciting incident of the show can no longer matter when we're on episode 5 or 6. It needs to, like, whatever is happening in the moment needs to be the most important thing,
Yeah,
because they're imagining like week to week watchers, right? Like, how do we get people to keep watching the shit? We gotta have it so it's like that. But also another thing I gotta, like, before we continue on to the whole like Aubrey and not Randy thing, there's something I wanted to iron out here, because like obviously I pirated this shit, like I was not gonna pay for this, right?
yeah, they buried this
Oh,
shit.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. It's like nobody is expecting royalties from this. But one thing I found interesting is that MTV was who made it, but then on certain episodes there was also the Netflix logo.
Right.
Is that
Yes.
is that because like Netflix had a distribution deal with this,
I
or
think
were they also involved with making it?
no, they had distribution deal. I think they had the
Okay.
international ones.
Got it.
Um,
That makes sense, because I'm Canadian, right? So it's like that makes sense in the sense where it's like we definitely still get MTV, but it's like it would go on Netflix in Canada or it would go on Netflix in Britain.
yeah,
So that makes
exactly.
sense. But what I wanted to get into with Aubrey and Randy is, I think, like, and I'm being so cynical when I say this, and I don't mean this to sound harsh or cruel.
Go
I
ahead.
think that the only reason that they keep her bisexual is because they want us as an audience to think that her and not Randy could possibly be an item later, especially with
Well,
how we see
mission
them at the end of
accomplished.
this.
Mission accomplished. Okay, they totally. I'm shipping them. Okay.
You're what I'm getting at there is, like, at the end of the series, right? Like, Aubrey is totally snuggling into not Randy's arm, like they're making it explicit where it's like she's like consoling him in him in that way,
It's
right? Where
so
it's like
heteronormative. It is.
it's crazy, right? I feel like that was what the whole show was building to almost, right? And it's like, hey, look, I'm a straight guy, like I'm not always like going into these things going like, hey, where's the queer representation? But at the same time, where it's like when you present a woman who got like scandalized because she made out with another woman, I'm assuming that she's going to end up with another woman at some point. Like
Right.
my mind is like, she is, like, the thing is like that's where her heart lies, and the only reason that she feels any kind of insecurity in that is because of how other people respond to it.
The
And
public stuff.
what the show's doing is that it's reinforcing those like ideologies that make people like that stay in the closet and like conform, which is very strange. So it's like the people who like are choosing to present it are also the same people who would keep them in the closet. It's very bizarre.
No, no, you're totally right because much like I said, like Randy should have gone up in a girlfriend episode. So should have Audrey. She should have gone to girlfriend episode because they're not going to care about the fact that her previous girlfriend got murdered because they forget about that like immediately. Um,
Again, off screen. Why would they kill her off screen in a serial killing show? Like,
right?
you need more people to kill.
Well, they don't kill off screen per se, but they make it so lame. Like, oh, they frames it as a suicide. And like that could have been interesting too. Like actually like have that carry forward, have that inform Audrey's arc. But no, everyone just gets stripped down. You know, this thing like so again, it's this is what makes the first episode's rules so funny. Like you gotta be invested, but the show is not invested in its own characters and the actual things it's
Exactly.
breaking up itself. These things should be carrying episode per episode. Randy should be a radically different character after season 3 onward. He should get more depressed. He should get more traumatized. He should be more cynical every episode. And that is the killer of his girlfriend is still out there. So should Audrey. They should be building up on these, together. Maybe they have a lived experience together, and they never bring it up. They never bring it up. Never informs the identity. Because Randy, episode per episode, has to be set back to zero as the quirky, fun guy. Audrey, episode per episode, has to be set back to zero as like the maybe lesbian with a chip on her shoulder. But we can't bring up the dead girlfriend thing because that's not important to the story anymore. It is it's not serialized. It's like episodic, wearing the skin of serialized.
This is an excellent point, right? And I feel like this is getting to the heart of the matter where it's like it needs to be serialized because they're imagining the person who's coming in week to week, and they're also imagining the person who's never watched the show before, who could be tuning in for the first time on whatever episode, and they got to catch them up to speed, right? It's that level of television making where it's really not caring about like the episode to episode chronology, but rather like how do we catch everybody up to speed on what's important in the moment. And that gets really annoying to watch from like a full series perspective. But then they go further on this point, right? Because you're also talking about this from a performance perspective, right? So one thing that's interesting is that everybody who's performing the show seemingly does not understand the things that you and I are pointing out here. And it should be, it's not to make us sound like we're geniuses because, like, hey, we're just average Joe Schmoes who watched this. Anybody who watched this would understand these things. The only performer who actually is able to carry the weight of each and every development, not just within the moment, but from scene to scene, is our not Sydney. Willa Fitzgerald is actually such a good performer that she's able to like carry the weight of all of these reveals scene to scene. I actually believe that there's a chronology with her. Everybody else, it's like I imagine those actors showing up on set and they're going like, okay, what am I reading today? I'm reading this. Okay, I'll give you how this person would read this. And Willa Fitzgerald, at least from as a performer, I feel like she has internalized what her character is supposed to be. Does it make sense? No. Does it work for a show? No. But it probably works for her to perform, and at least that is tethering me a bit. Also, like before I throw it off, I'm gonna step away from the mic for like a minute. So like you take it away, and I'll be right back.
I mean, you're not wrong. Okay. It's like, as I mentioned, it's kind of like she's like the only one that remembers the dead girlfriends and boyfriends. The actual people who were with him and never did. So, um, yeah, no, that's about it. It's like they mentioned that she carries the weight. Like that performance is exuding a lived experience. Everyone else is like a cardboard cutout cartoon of a character. And that is about it. Yeah, I just can't think of anything else like to say about that.
I just step out of the room for like a minute,
No,
and there's so little to talk about.
yeah, there
And you're,
is. Yeah,
you
I'm
threw in the
waiting.
towel.
Yeah.
You threw in the
No,
towel. You're like,
I threw in the towel, okay? Because what? I agree with what you said. You said it perfectly, okay? Like she's the only one that seems like it's having a lived experience. I when she if she doesn't mention the dead boyfriends and girlfriends, the weight of the emotion that she's portraying, you can glean, okay, she is thinking about these other characters, more than their actual loved ones were. And that's about it. Like everyone else is like
mhm.
is like a cardboard cutout character. It's a Hanna-Barbera cartoon over in Randy, Audrey, Will, and Brookland. Or not Will.
Yeah,
What's his face?
they're all
Joey Jojo.
cartoons. They're doing like the whole Scooby Doo shit of like all the split up and all that stuff every episode, and it's like, come on, man! Like this is supposed to be the series that's supposed to circumvent the tropes. This is supposed to comment upon tropes. Instead, they're just like willfully participating in them, and then they'll get a monologue at the end of the episode where it's like, "Aren't we clever for knowing about Gone Girl?"
No, you're right. And gosh darn, man. Okay. Let's see what else. Uh, I can't even. I really. What else? What else in this season? What else is in this season?
One thing I wanted to let the audience know
Mm,
is that if you're wanting to watch the show and you're wondering how long it is, it takes about as long to beat Donkey Kong Country Donkey Kong Country Returns HD for the Switch. So if, like, hypothetically speaking, you were to play that game while you were watching the show, uh, and not fully pay attention to the screen every time you're watching it, just so you know, you can beat that game in the time it takes to watch the show. Uh, who knows how I know this fact? I'll leave that up to the mind of the viewer or
I'll say that brings up a good point. I feel like if you were to edit this show into a movie, you'd have to have like 20 minutes of credits to pad it out to movie length.
You're saying that there's only about an hour of plot in this.
There is. There is. Unless you want to keep
Yeah,
in the riveting
well,
plot of like the
yeah.
mayor and like he's getting blackmailed, but not from the revenge porn blackmail ring, but a different blackmail ring.
This feels like a really bad Stephen King TV show or like TV movie, right? In the sense where it's like you can see the ideas, but they don't fully come together because of the limitations of the people making the thing, right?
Mhm.
And I get what you're saying, where it's like there's not much meat on these bones. This is a very dry series in terms of like meaty ideas, and most of them we've pretty much discussed. The main issues that come in how the story is told and what makes it interesting to dissect is like how it's so confident in being a piece of what the original series was, but in actuality it's like a complete imitation of even what the original Scream was doing.
Yeah.
It's a very bizarre thing where it's like it thinks it's top shit, but it's not even garage sale
It's
level.
smug. That's it. It's
Yeah.
smug. Like that Randy's face is so punchable. Like don't you understand? This is just where the killer reveals something. I don't care, man. This is why they kill Randy off in the second one. Good riddance.
I am shocked that there are two more seasons of this.
Well, to be
The
fair,
fact that like
the third
sorry?
one is the third one is its own story. So
Oh, it completely goes in a different chronology? That's
well,
insane.
because okay, so the thing is, right? They basically canceled the show after season two. Okay,
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
and so well, apparently there were like some producers, some new producers came in, who wanted to make their own slasher show, Queen Latifah and so forth. Like I want to make a slasher
Wait,
show,
what?
and yeah,
Queen Latifah is involved with Scream season 3?
yeah, because they basically like we want to make a horror TV show, and they're like, well, why don't we just uncancel Scream, and just have just use that as Scream 3, Scream season 3 anyway,
Well,
and
th- I'm glad that you brought this up because like that's the another elephant in the room that we're not discussing, right? Again, 2015, produced by the Weinsteins. They are about to get canceled forever, justifiably so, right? This is like one of their last mainstream things, right? If not like as they're out the door. right? So I think that it's very interesting to consider this as like one of the final like cultural output things that the Weinsteins had a part in. And the fact that it gets taken away from them actually does mean something to me.
But to watch something funny. Okay, this is like this. We're not. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about this, but let's forecast a little bit. So what happened? What
Sure.
happened was is that so they knew the writing was on the wall season two, and so they basically
Wait, so
got
they knew they were fucked and they decided to wrap it the way that they did? Is just not to jump ahead, but
in
like
season.
that's what you were getting at?
Well, so what happened in season two is that they got two special episodes, and they together it's a two-part episode, two special episodes. That basically is like a quick speed run, like the most speediest speed run of what their plans for season three were. But like a movie.
Oh my
So
god.
it's two episodes. They're together like an hour and 20 minutes, and it's like a movie. It's like and
Oh no.
it's basically it's right like it's their plan season three on fast forward, um, and it ends on a cliffhanger. So they really wanted like, oh, this is gonna be our hail mary. It didn't work. It didn't work.
I'm surprised that this worked. You know, like when I was watching this first season, I'm thinking to myself, like, if I'm a television executive, right? If I'm sitting at the boards and I've got the dials, and I'm thinking to myself, what gets greenlit next season and what doesn't? This feels as if a show that only got a season, right? Like this,
Yeah,
like how many shows have you seen with only one season that have felt exactly like this, right? So the fact that like there are three of them and it's got this kind of reputation where it's like there were people who were passionate enough to where they thought that the third season's idea needed to get out there like that, right? And then they couldn't even follow up on the promises that came up from that pitch. That is really funny to me. I'm excited.
I kind of want to get to the final two episodes of the second season. That are like this. I want to see like is it better that they have like, oh, we only have like 70 minutes to make this thing work. I want like, hey, we're making a movie, and guess what? It's called Scream Halloween. It's a 2 hour episode.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
but also like let's go back to what you were just saying, like what 10 minutes ago, right? Like this one season had about an hour's worth of plot in it,
yeah.
right? So like if they were able to condense what their plans were for a third season into 2 episodes, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. That like not to say that it would be good, but like maybe there are some ideas there at least, and that would be funny.
Yeah. Okay. That's pro. That's one in the pro column for continuing this terrible CB series.
That's that's
To
what I'm
reach
saying.
to reach
But but
that.
but also like on that note of like why we should continue this in my eyes, it's like I love the bottom of the barrel. I love like the like we were talking about like Friday night Fright Night 2, right?
Yeah.
Like I love shit like that. Not in the sense of like I love all of those movies, but I love it when there's like an official thing that everybody forgets about and it's just like we're only covering it out of obligation. And and this is a fun obligation to me. This is something that nobody really even knows or cares that it exists. But I think that it's very fascinating the ways in which it fails.
Oh,
It is only specific to trying to do exactly this. And we would only know this if we had watched the previous Scream movies. So that's why I find this fun.
like I think about this. You're right. And this has been mostly forgotten. You don't see people like. I don't think I've seen anyone be like, "How dare this not be on Paramount Plus or, or Netflix or anything?" It's basically forgotten. No
Oh
one's
yeah,
clamoring for more of this. Um,
no, nor is anybody looking back on this fondly, right?
no.
Like, how many Tumblr pages? Because, like, that's the time in which this came out, right? You'd have to imagine that, like, they're hoping that somebody is going to, like, take, like, the not Randy and put them on their Tumblr wall and be like, hey, isn't this guy dreamy? Like,
He's, he's, he's
let's,
he's the twink nerd boy of the season, man.
like, that's the intention. And the fact that it fails as hard as it does, I think that's funny.
Okay, let's try to mine this mess for more shit. Let's look down some episode titles and descriptions and see if anything jogs the memory. Okay, so we have the pilot. After a cyber incident results in a brutal murder, the shocking violence stirs up the memories of a killing spree from the past that has haunted some, intrigued others, and maybe just inspired a new killer. We already talked about that one.
The
Bellathorn
only
Cadet.
thing, the only thing that came to mind during any of this is like, have you seen the movie Suitable Flesh?
Yes, it's amazing. Except for the
Yeah,
very
so
ending, which I didn't like that much. But everything else is like, this is the best Lovecraft movie ever fucking made.
I'm so glad that you love the movie as much as I do in that sense, in the same ways, actually, because I feel like the movie does have some third act issues, but it is so close to getting that Stuart Gordon feel right. But
Well,
one thing I wanted to say is that the mother in the show, in the Scream show, reminded me a lot of
Robin
Heather
Canton.
Graham.
Oh,
No,
it's like
Heather Graham in Suitable Flesh. The way that her character is played, where she's like, kind of an established older adult trying to like learn how to let loose a bit, right? I felt there was very close similarities in how those performers played that role. Not in like the sexualization that you see in Suitable Flesh, but more so like the character themselves, before they get possessed, is what I'm getting at there.
mm,
I noticed that symmetry. That's the only thing I wanted to call out. Go ahead.
okay. So let's move ahead. Hello, Emma. The second episode. Okay. The death of Nina and Rachel raises both questions. Who the fuck is Rachel?
Yeah, I forget. I don't. I
The
don't
lesbian
remember who
girlfriend.
Rachel is.
The lesbian girlfriend. Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, that's right. It's again lesbian girlfriend who dies off screen. Why? Why
Why
is
wasn't
such
she
an
more of the
important character?
season?
Right? Like, why are they not a speaking character? Like, why do we only get to see one half of the embarrassment of being forcibly outed? Right? Like, I feel especially when that character was more in the closet than the other one. Right? Like, you would
Right.
imagine that like a TV show that's looking to like mine enough drama for 10 episodes, they would think to themselves, hey, you know what? If we have a closeted character who hasn't come to terms with their identity, that's like 2 episodes of of development right there. Like
You're
you
so
know,
right, because that's the thing, right? They're saying that's what makes the rules so funny. We gotta keep them invested, but they cut off all the branches of investment to the most generic, bad boy boyfriend love triangle or nerdy guy and punk tomboy chick who, it's the most or hot chick and
mhm.
she's hot chick. You're pruning the trees in the wrong ways. Okay,
Well, also like we got to consider this from the perspective of like, okay, so this is an MTV show, right? And
you gotta be hot.
obviously it's aping Pretty Little Liars, right? So this is clearly a show for like teenage girls, right? First, not like Scream fans, but like teenage girls.
Mhm.
So, like, wouldn't you want to have just like more teenage girls in this show? Like, there's only like 3 of them, right? The rest of them are either like shitty guys or adults. I feel like you need to
Most of the
have like
adults are dudes
six.
too.
Exactly, right? So like you need to have like 6 or 7 teen girls. You need to and like that
Oh,
the
I'm
reason I'm
gonna
saying
clip
that.
that, Tony. You caught you.
Oh,
We
I
caught
canceled
you.
forever. No, I'm on the F scene files. No. But you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah, I see.
you need to have because like that's what the target demographic for the show is. And like that's going to be the mindset that a lot of people are kind of entering this from. So to then ask these teen girls who are watching the show to be like, now watch a middle-aged detective try to hook up with a coroner, right?
But also middle
Like
age. Not in a hot. Nah, there's no problematic age gap here that you can mine.
no, it's normal. It's not like the teacher thing, which again, the teenage girl audience watching like the hookup thing, they're gonna find that gross, right? Like Bob and Harvey Weinstein find that sexy. The teen girls who are watching this are not gonna find that sexy. They're gonna find that weird.
That's why in Dawson's Creek was the other way around, man. Pacey and the hot French teacher. Other way
I,
around.
I'll take your word for it. I have not seen Dawson's Creek, so
Dawson's Creek is so good except for the ending because my favorite couple didn't end up together. So fuck you, Kim
look,
Williamson.
look, I used to date somebody who, like, on the Dawson's Creek Wars, they chose the OC, so that was the one I had to, saddle up with, right? But so I've never taken the Dawson's Creek plunge or taken the kayak down Dawson's Creek, but I'll take your word for it.
All right. But let's see here.
Yeah, keep going through these episodes. I feel like that's been a great way for us because I feel like at this point we've carried over the carcass, right? We can just go off of the synopsis and anything that comes up, we can just list that.
So, want to play a game? Emma discovers her mom, Margaret. God, that was her name. They don't even mention it once. Is keeping additional secrets from her, and leading the killer to challenge her to a dangerous game. Um, we talked most about this case. So Brooke gets a text from the killer, right? But she thinks it's from her adult boyfriend. And wait, well, let's just bring it up, okay? Everyone thinks that she has a boyfriend in college, right? Which is
It's so
also
stupid.
which is also gross because
Yeah.
that's an adult guy too. Now let's be honest here. Okay, but who hasn't been in a high school where a girl dated someone in college, right? And it'd be like everyone just or people would be like would say, "Oh, that's cool," and in their minds are like that's crazy, especially when he picks you up
Well,
for school.
I feel like there would at least be a conversation, right? Because like speaking as somebody who has been with like friends who have dated guys who are older, right? And I've been like not to like, demean or anything,
You
sometimes there
prude.
has to be a conversation, right? Where exactly you kind of like pry a bit and you kind of see what the relationship's like in the sense to see how like healthy it is.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, hey, whatever, they know what they're doing. They're having a good time, whatever. Right.
Okay.
But I feel like nobody here does the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Everybody just kind of takes Brooke at her word for it, right? They're just like, "Hey, you got an older boyfriend, whatever," like
Let's,
they're not paying attention to the signs at
let,
all, and it's
let,
crazy.
let's just throw our hands up here. She's Brooke is a wild one. She's untamed stallion. You can't tame her. You can't. Okay. That's
well,
why she lives.
well, the show does the stupid thing where it's like trying to make it seem like it's her decision at times, but
And
it's like no, it's not her
you're getting
decision because
groomed.
inherently it like the power structure makes it so it's not her decision. You
Right.
know what I
And,
mean?
and and they have like the shitty jock rapist guy
Mhm.
say it too. And like, oh my god, she should come to this revelation herself.
Yeah, right.
Not that should be her character arc. That should be her character arc. But no, even at the very end of the season, she's like, I just hope he's okay. But I'm finally
Mhm.
free to be myself. No, you should be free to call the cops. Okay.
I th- I think this is why I'm praising the performance rather than the writing because in the performance I did feel more of her autonomy, right? I did feel as though there was a level of self-awareness there that existed beyond the writing. So it's when it gets to the point where that's where her character ends up, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, fuck you writers." I'm not
Good
saying
for
fuck
her.
you to her,
Good for
because it's like I feel like she found the in for that performance to where I could watch her and not be like, I need to turn this off and have a shower right now.
Yeah,
I
I
felt I
agree.
felt like she as a performer was going, oh, I got given this really shitty role. How am I going to make this work? And to watch her at least try to make those gears spin, that's where my praise for her comes from. But beyond that, it's like the people who came up with this should be in jail.
Yeah, I agree
Like,
with you.
I hate this.
I agree with you because clearly this actress has a very rich inner life because of the Blazing World TV.
Exactly,
And
exactly. We know she's a thinker. We know that she's got something going on behind those two eyes and ears.
behind that incredible body, let's just bring. She's hot. I'm gonna say it. She's hot.
You go for it. You
Um,
go for it. For me, with the attractiveness of these characters, I'm mostly just looking at these people and going like,
there's,
whatever.
there's one.
They're fodder. Like I don't see them as attractive beings. I'm just like
It's so weird
throw them in the
though.
wood chipper.
It is pretty. It does get pretty. I'm gonna say it, lecherous at times. Okay, it does get really lecherous at times because
Yeah.
there's one shot, like I think maybe like episode like 6, where like there's like Willa Fitzgerald's character is like talking in the hallway, and like this really low angle shot of like
Oh, I know what you're
of her
talking
skirt
about.
and it's like you just riding up just to like the cheek meat, like what
Yeah,
the fuck are we doing?
this is something I didn't know we were going to talk about on this episode, but you know what? We're going to talk about it because we both noticed it. There are many sequences on the show where it's like they put Willa Fitzgerald in like short skirts or like shorts, and they just focus on like her legs and her butt, and like you like
It's so
I'm only bringing
weird.
this up. I'm only bringing this up because like of the things that we've said about the show so far, where it's so leering, it's so
Yes, it's
lecherous, as
lecherous.
you said.
Yes,
Mhm.
and I don't like. There's no purpose to that. Like she is attractive. She's an attractive actress. And she's been in roles that do play up her
Great
attractiveness.
actor.
Exactly. But like this becomes like we're in on a joke that she isn't, you know, and that becomes weird.
And also, like, how sexualized was Sydney in the first Scream,
Exactly.
right?
Sydney
Like,
Sydney is very pretty. You know, she's very, very cute and very attractive, but she's like normal, you know? She's like
yeah, she's
this
supposed to be like every
routine.
woman, right? And to bring it back to Halloween, right? Like Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis was supposed to just be like everyday woman who's a bit of sass, right? And I feel like with Willa Fitzgerald, she's put in this position where she, as an actress, knows, okay, I got to deliver that Jamie Lee Curtis, that it was Nev Campbell, right, who
Yeah.
played Sydney, right? Yeah. So it's like those two, like Willa Fitzgerald knows that she's in that lane, but she's written for like a Pretty Little Liars, like we're gonna get the upskirts when we can. It's really weird. Like it's a
Yeah.
really
It
weird
pulls you
like
out of it.
disjoint. Mhm.
Especially since the show itself is trying to talk about, as you mentioned, autonomy, sexual politics. He's the victim of like a child porn video that gets a revenge porn video as well that gets spread everywhere, and then that becomes a moot point that only
Mhm.
exists for an episode. It stops
It's
mattering,
weird.
but like
It's
it
weird
happened.
because like it's like you can tell these writers like wanted to talk about these things, but then they themselves don't have any like actually good politics or takes on these things. So they just kind of like leave them up in the air. And then for an audience, it's like, yeah, you brought up these points, and maybe like I want to hear what you have to say about this because you brought it up. But like now you're just kind of like it's kind of like watching somebody who like bought a Lego set, right? And they have the Lego manual in front of them, and they started like building the Lego set, and then they like halfway through they're just like, you know what, I'm done. And then not only do they leave the Legos there, but they take the booklet with them, and then like you are left there with this half completed thing with all these pieces, and you're trying to put this thing back together, but you don't know what it's supposed to look like in the end. So you're just kind of like putting the things back together where it
Oh my
should
god.
be, but it's like not exactly perfect. That's
Oh
what the
my
show feels like to me.
oh my god. Oh my! I'm looking through some of these episodes, and you're right. You're completely right. I don't even to point anything else out there. You said you're completely right. This show feels like a jumble. Okay, of half remembered pieces going where they're supposed to, or at least adjacent where they're going, and there's no connective tissue. There's no structure, and that there should be a structure regarding this. But I'm looking through some of these episodes. Okay, and oh my god, Lee Janiak and Ty West directed episodes of this fucking shit.
Yeah, when I saw Ty West's name come up, like for a moment I became a Ty West hater because like usually I defend Ty West. Usually I'm like, you know what, Ty
I'm
West,
not
you've
surprised,
made
honestly.
based on prior conversation, the VHS series was very illuminating in that sense. But like, when we get those episodes that are directed by Ty West and they are just the worst, like not just him specifically, but just like none of these episodes are directed with any chutzpah or anything. It's a total
There's no
paycheck.
vision.
There's no vision. And then also like working with Harvey and Bob Weinstein, right? And now he's working with Johnny Depp, like I don't know, man. Like I might be out on the Ty West train, even if I like what he's doing as a storyteller. You know what I mean?
Yep. But let's talk about want to play a game a little bit more, okay? Because
Sure.
like the Asian girl could have lived. Okay, let's do some nitpicking here. Let's do some classic screen nitpicking. She could have lived.
She's one of the most likable characters,
Yes,
right?
but
Like,
also she's like right next door to a fucking police station.
yeah, and,
She-
and also like her death, like she's just kind of like in a parking lot or whatever. That's another thing we got to talk about. Is the kills in this suck so
they
bad?
they either off screen or because it's a TV show on like a regular cable station. Okay, they can't show anything. In fact, the
Yeah.
gruesomest thing happens off screen, and then we see like the result in shadow later, and it's you put
Mhm.
the two things together, and it's pretty gnarly. But that's like the closest this gets, and it's just like basic stabs.
Mhm.
It's there's no chutzpah, as you said. There's no because if they were directed like with some finesse, you can make that work. And this one, she's like, oh, it's perfunctory. We gotta get this done. That's it.
the thing that they can do on the show is they can stab people and they can have them bleed, right? And there are many scenes in this show where it's like somebody gets stabbed and you see like a pool of blood, and it's like, okay, like that's a lot of blood. And like maybe too much blood coming out of this person. There's a scene later on, by the way, where somebody gets stabbed in the heart and another character pulls the knife out of it and they live, right? So I just wanted to point that out there in terms of like how inconsiderate it is in terms of realism in that sense. But when it comes to like, the kills, as you're talking about, like how a lot of them happen off screen, obviously that's cheap, right? But then there's like this idea where it's like, there are these characters who are being chased by Ghostface, like Brooke, right? Where, she's trapped in the tanning salon or whatever, and she gets stabbed through it, right? She gets stabbed like 3 or 4 times. And she comes out of there, she's like soaking in blood, and she survives, right?
In the
Meanwhile,
freezer?
like, yeah. Oh, the freezer. That's what it is. Not
It's the
tanning.
opposite of the tanning salon, man. It's the
I was
direct
confusing
opposite.
it with Final
Trials.
Destination 3. That's what was happening.
But yeah, you're right. And like, come on, man. She should have died there.
She should have died in episode 5. Like if they wanted to maintain the impact of the Brooke character, she should have died early on. And like I said, there should have been so many more teenage girls, like there should have been, like 7 of them, so like at least there was like a body count. That's another thing again that the show like promises, where it's like, oh, you gotta like, draw out the kills, you gotta like, make sure that they're prominent. There are episodes where no kills happen. I would expect that there would at least be 1 kill an episode. Is that too much to ask?
It is
I don't
not.
think it
Or
is.
at least one every 2 episode. Maybe have every episode be a two-parter, you know?
There we go. That's a
Inciting
good way.
incident and then chase and kill. Inciting
Like the
incident. Go
the
ahead.
first 2-3 episodes, right? Somebody dies every episode, right?
Yeah.
And I was okay with that pace. If somebody died every episode, that would have actually been okay, even if it was as disposable as this, right? But the fact that they're in the like middle of the season, there's like 4 episodes where nobody dies. That's insane. Like that's like you can't do that in my eyes if you're making a slasher TV show.
Okay, okay, so let's see. I want to give you the idea of one of the promos of this series. Okay, it's a panning shot. Okay, of like a party, and like you see like hors d'oeuvres and dinner trays and all that stuff out. And as it pans to the party, you see like um no one there, it's immediately. This is the actual promo that they released for the show. As you pan across like the hors d'oeuvres and trays and like snacks, you start to see like furniture get ruffled and like thrown across, and then you see like bloody imprints everywhere, and then then you see like it pans over to the end where it's going. You see like a patio door crashed and glass everywhere, and that was the promo. I like that's a better sequence of imagined things than ever happens in this show.
Yeah, because there's mystery, there's
Yeah.
mystique, like there's actually buildup, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like that in the show itself. It's just like, okay, here's a kill scene, and it's just like characters that we know already, or like facing off against someone we don't know who it is yet. Even though if you're paying attention, you can probably piece it together. But it's like like it's one of those situations where in the first Scream movie, the humanity of the person behind the mask, all that stuff, even if you know who it is, it doesn't matter because it's interesting to just kind of watch that thing unfold. And
Yeah.
the problem here is that it just becomes a formality, which
It
is
does.
like a cheat.
Like she dies like immediately after. She didn't even really get like a big rant,
They do the like whole like they always come back thing, and it feels terrible, right? It's like like didn't they shoot her like in the head the first time and then she comes back? It's insane.
It is. It's really, really fucking boring. Let's move ahead. We're halfway through the season almost. Aftermath. Emma gets a mysterious message, which leads her, Audrey, and Noah. That's his fucking name, Noah. Um, in search for answers in an abandoned hospital where they discover the killer's lair and find themselves with more questions.
Okay,
Um,
so yeah, like they introduced the killer's lair so early on into the season,
mm,
and it's like, okay, this should be like a central location. This should be
mm,
like something that like they come back to or more hints come from.
yeah.
But instead, it's like such a major reveal that's tossed off like
They
nothing.
don't care.
It's
Nothing ever
it's so
carries.
stupid.
Nothing
And
ever
also like
carries.
And another thing too is like think about how many locations are in the show, right? Like that's something that I keep track of sometimes, right? And it's like this show has so many different locations. This show is very frequently moving around, and it's like if you're going to go out of the way and make a whole layer set, why would you not have this be like an important part of this whole series? Why would we have more time given to not Randy's like triple monitor setup? That's not very impressive, by the way.
Yeah, you got the android's dungeon, and doing no work. How does he get paid? How much
Just like
porn?
a random screen playing like Jet Set Radio or whatever.
They should have made him Robbie. Make him a gargoyle, you know.
Or just have him playing better video games. Like the
That's
video
true.
games that he's playing on screen, I'm like, come on. Like
Yeah.
they're like this is in 2015. We got some better shit out there.
But you're right, because like it tries to do this whole, oh, what if it's Jason Voorhees, Brendan James thing, but obviously it isn't. So they bring up all this stuff that point to it that could influence it, but the show itself is like, we don't only have 10 episodes. We can't waste time on a fall asleep. That's the whole point. You bring up a red herring and you develop it so that the twist becomes impactful because you didn't see it coming, but everybody knows that it's a red herring. So like, we're just gonna bring this up, but then we're gonna ignore it because it's not important. But like that's not interesting to watch. It's not.
And now let's actually drill back into Audrey, right? Because this is something that we haven't touched on just yet, right? But it's and not to skip ahead from the summaries of these
No, let's go.
episodes that
Go
we're
ahead.
doing, right? But it's like the ending of the series is invoking her complicity in this murder after like proving to us like, hey, maybe like she's off the board now. And it's like, okay, I get this from like a let's try to get a second season kind of thing, but then also like I don't buy it. I don't buy that Aubrey was actually involved with this, even though they give us this extensive like she is probably complicit in some way because there has to be a second killer or whatever. I like even though we get that explicit things, I don't think that the way that they wrote Aubrey or the way that they delivered it actually sold that bit for me, and I'm interested to see how it plays out in the season 2.
Yeah, but see, that's one of the few things I'll give it, okay? Because it holds its cards to the chest about like the whole, oh, two killers thing, and like
Sure.
that's fun because you kind of expect it, and like, well, I guess there was no second killer. Oh wait, there was in second season. Aha,
Mhm.
that's a funny little thing to do if you're making a Scream TV show. Use the second killer to get a second season. Fun.
And also have it so that second killer gets off, right? That
Yeah.
like everybody focused on the one person and they got off scot free. But then also like the question is like, could you imagine like Aubrey and that like reporter character like conspiring with one another? Like, I don't feel like there's any connective tissue to make us believe that they would be in coots with one another.
Well, I guess we would find out in the second season.
Oh, now that's how they get you. You know, like I'm saying the things that the studio executives would
This
hope would
this
say,
is why
right?
it
Like,
got a second season. This is why it
ex-
didn't get a third season.
what you're saying is I'm part of the problem.
You are.
I'm the reason that this happened. Exactly, exactly. I'll take ownership. You know what? MTV. You know, I only tuned in for the music videos, but they caught me here.
You know what? We should circle back after 7.
That's what you're saying. You think we should finish the series of movies and then come back to the show?
Yeah, just see like, where it could have gone if what the series had been a hit.
See, I like this idea because then at least that way, like we could snake the other two into coming back. You know, spring it on them. You know, oh, they think they're done. No, we got season 2 left.
We got season 2, the TV movie, basically, and then
Mhm.
I don't know
And then
the
season
Queen
3. Well,
the Queen Latifah one if we want to.
yeah, the part where they go channel 0 with it.
Yeah. Um, they get Roger Jackson and the mask back, so that's something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or maybe with Queen Latifah's involvement, I guess you could say it's like kind of like what Saw did, which
Yeah,
is weird because
it's
like
basically
what
Spiral. It's the Spiral of the series.
but then also like this came before Spiral, right? And then
Mm.
also like another thing too is like this one exists within so much of the chronology of Saw, right? Like 4 references Saw, but then like this show, it can't do the violence, but it explicitly references Saw at many points. You could tell that like if this was on a more mature network, they probably would have gotten into some body horror.
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially I know if they had had more of a leeway, you definitely would have seen that given some of the stuff that happens. All right, all right. So moving ahead, um,
Yes.
exposed when a scandalous CP video is
Yeah.
leaked. Emma learns a heartbreaking secret. Will, poor Will, um, you know, he didn't know. How could you blame him for
No.
for keeping this horrendous video that they had? And she's like, what? They've been dating for like a year and a half or something, right? So
This
she's like
guy sucks,
so she's like
right?
16 in this video, man.
It, so here's the thing, right? Like this whole show is based around this idea that it's like that Willa Fitzgerald, right? She's got this long term boyfriend and this like new guy who's kind of dangerous, but she's really into him, right? And the weird thing is like we're supposed to feel some kind of tension, but like this guy sucks. Like
He
there's
does.
at no point am I thinking to myself like she should be with him. Like when it comes to the other guy, it's like I have my own problems with him, but it's like I certainly know that she shouldn't be with him. You know what I mean?
He should be in jail.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then it's continued with like the later like blackmailing plot where it's like this guy sucks. Like this guy is like late season 2 Twin Peaks bad. You know, like you do not want any
But
part
the,
of it of
so,
him.
but that's the thing. I think this wanted to be Twin Peaks. Like, okay,
Oh, for sure.
there's an initial
This was
killing, but then it just
mhm.
unfolds. That's why you got all these other plots, that just unfold.
Influenced by soap operas. It's all there, right? Like this is clearly trying to be its own kind of Twin Peaks.
And you know what? I'll say it. It's a better Twin Peaks ripoff than Riverdale.
Hey, I've never watched Riverdale, so I couldn't tell you. And I'll take your word for it because
Uh,
honestly, the Riverdale fans, they annoy me.
they annoy me too because they're always like, "This is a progressive show," and then they ignore the horrendous sexism that happened with Big Apple. Like,
Well,
sorry.
I'll take your word, Kurt, because I don't know what any of that means, but at the same time, it's like that's the problem with the CW, right? It has nothing to do with like the intention of the writers, but it has everything to do with like the people who are financing it, right? And it's like you can't get me to buy that like some CW show is like the most progressive thing in the world. I'm sorry, it's like it's the whole like is my computer my friend thing, right?
Yeah.
Like no, you got to keep yourself at arm's distance often because these people will let you down. It's not like Ari Aster making Beau is Afraid or Eddington. There's a chance of honesty there, right? You can't get the honesty in the other places. At that point, it's just close assimilations. Similar to this, it's trying to have some kind of resemblance of reality, right?
Hmm.
And to some degree, it's like I can get that Willa Fitzgerald would be caught up on the shitty boyfriend. That makes sense. That being said, it's like when her other option is this kind of dangerous but also ultimately good guy. Like every time that there's a comparison point, I'm thinking to myself, why would you even give the other guy a time of day? He sucks. The only reason he's with you is because of a bet.
Yeah, but doesn't that just give them something to overcome? They grow up together, man. You don't understand love.
Oh no.
You don't understand
Yeah,
love
I
like I
guess
understand love.
that's the problem. I'm not a romance understander.
I'm
It's
a, I'm
just
a
a moral
I'm,
for failing of my end. Yeah,
I'm a
that's right.
romantic. I'm a romantic.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I
My
see
heart's not open enough.
I see the good in people. Okay, I know he really loved her despite the horrendous revenge porn thing.
I'm being too much of a pragmatist. Like I would never survive in a Noah Ephron film.
You okay? So continuing. Also, her friends never get any shit for accidentally leaking it everywhere. And no one ever gets. You think that a 6-year-old having sex on videotape getting shared to everyone in the entire town? Because it doesn't go
You think
just to
that
the
would cancel the
classroom.
show?
Yeah, like to the town. It goes to the town. Adults are getting this message with the video on it.
It, insanity.
Not just the
That it's
school.
and saved as like a reveal for the end of the episode. Like it's like tune in next week to find out what's gonna happen next. And it's like, are you serious?
And
Like that's
nothing
crazy.
happens. She gets some conversation like, "You gotta power through this," and then she does. She powers through it. Um,
The problem is like the show makes this whole point where it's like, yeah, it's awful that it came out everyone watched it for sure, but like it's good that you're owning it. Like the show makes it like that is explicitly what happens. And
Girl
it's
power.
so gross.
I believe in
It's
girl
like
power.
that's what the show's trying to do. That's the Insidious thing. It's trying to be like, oh, she owned it, but it doesn't negate the fact that everybody is gross and slimy for taking part in exactly that.
You think that the fucking cop would have bust some heads? Is he trying to like date the mother? If I was trying to impress the mother, I'd bust some heads, man.
Yeah, or like at least improve some kind of cybersecurity, right? Like we at least saw that like the video was taken down earlier on in the season. You would expect that the cops would be on the high alert after a few murders, right? Like
It's child porn. Get the FBI in here, man.
it's up for hours. It's up for hours. Like the next day, people are still talking about it. It's like you're telling me that they took down like the lesbian kiss within hours, but you left the child porn up? That's crazy.
All right. Moving ahead. Betrayed. Emma learns the latest prime suspect is someone close to her. This is the one where Audrey is like, I'm definitely not one of the killers, but please destroy all the incriminating evidence that might prove I'm one of the killers. And they do, except when they watch it first, and it clearly shows that she might be one of the killers. So arrest all of them, really. All those are in jail.
They're all complicit, really. Like what's that moment that they have where it's like, do you believe that she's the killer? No, then that's all that matters. And then by the end of the season, it's like, nah, she was the killer. And it's like, what was the point of that? Like you literally just had it so it's like the mother gave her bad advice. That she was like,
But
yeah.
don't you understand? They had to bring that uppity woman detective down a notch. Okay, she was getting
That's right.
she
She
was get
was too obsessed with rules and
and justice.
regulations and doing things appropriately.
She she she
That's
demeaned
another
the
thing we should
man.
bring up right now. The conservative slant on this show, like just inherently that we haven't even discussed, right? Because like Wes Craven is like a messy leftist, right? Like he's
Yeah.
somebody who like had progressive ideas, but like didn't know the right exact ways. Like he clearly was somebody who had the right opinions, but didn't do the reading, right? And this show is the opposite, where it's like this is just conservative media.
Right. No, because it really is like it feels like a almost like we're into like a Tyler Sheridan world. We're like we're like in his shows, the moment like a woman starts talking up to a man, they gotta be like humiliated. You know, and that's what happens with this girl cop. She shows a different backbone or opinion than the cop, the sheriff, and she's gotta be taken down a notch. You know, fellas, am I right?
Yeah, well, it's this whole thing. It goes back to the whole like student teacher thing, where it's supposed to be playing on like the expectation of where it's like, well, this is clearly gross, but then it's trying to give like a nuance where it's like, oh well, like what if they actually kind of wanted it and like they were kind of complicit in doing it, and it's like, what do you mean? Like you are the one who created this scenario. I do not want to be like forced down this hypothetical, and you've put me in this position, and I refuse to interact with it. Instead, I choose to laugh at you.
Okay. Let's see here. Next up, in the trenches, Emma races to save a friend from a from the killer's dangerous game of hide and seek before time runs out. This is a very boring episode, except for the guy gets destroyed by the trench digger.
Yeah, that's like the only reason to remember the episode, especially considering like the way it's filmed, right? Like it's like, do you remember that like it's so locked down that it's like in the middle of the day, it's in the middle of a field. She's like it again, it feels like a dream, right? Where it's like he's just out there, she runs towards him, and then she hits a tripwire, and then all of a sudden he's just done, right? And then one thing I thought about was like later in the season, right? Like her mother is like on the dock and she's tied up in a very similar way,
To Steve
right?
Orff, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and she doesn't.
these are our Steve Orff moments. Oh, God damn it. Or,
but she runs to her mother the same way that she ran towards that guy. And at no point is she like checking for tripwires or anything, right? Like
Mhm.
there's no like internalization of like what she could do for the second outing, right? She's just like, oh, my mom's in
But
the
it's
chair.
because no one grows. No one learns.
No, it's just like they imagine that like even if it's the finale of the show, this might be your first episode of the show. So we have to have it so it's dumb enough to where you just tuned in right now and you can understand roughly what's
Yeah,
going
because
on.
someone might be saying, "Why isn't she running to her mom?" Is she stupid? You know, you have to dumb it
What do
down.
you mean? Her mom's right there, like, come on, like,
Run to her.
don't waste your time. She's right there. Exactly. This is made for like somebody who is watching the show, and then like during the commercial breaks, they're going to Fox News. And then like sometimes they get caught up in watching Fox News too much that when they get back to the Scream show, they're like, oh shit, I missed 2 minutes. That's what the show is designed for.
Yep. All right. So, next one, ghosts. Emma is shaken by another death and uncovers a secret from the past. Where's Sydney's pops, man? Turns out he never exists. Just big to her imagination the entire time.
Oh my
This
god.
character does not show up at all, ever.
The thing we're talking about, like the not Sydney's father kind of thing, like we get a bit of that later in the season, but it's like it's again a problem where it's like we have this character who we're referencing often who is important to the plot, but we never see them. Right? Like, why is this such a common issue on the show? That like integral parts of the show just are not visible, and then we have to just kind of hear how other people talk about them.
Right, because you know what? Sydney's dad, it wasn't like impressive character in the original movies, but this show is so much more about the relationship of those people. It kind of makes more sense that he would show up, and he never does. She imagines him for an episode, but it comes to no avail. You even hear like the sheriff like we tracked him to like a credit card use to stayed over, but that's just a red herring. He just never shows up. Like there's killings going around, where his wife and daughter live, and I guess he doesn't give a shit.
It's just busy work, right? It's just like more kindling to put in the fire, right, of the mystery show that we're trying to build, or the mystery box if you prefer, right? It's just this like never ending fire that needs more kindling, and it just doesn't know what is the appropriate thing to have you actually hooked. And for something like that, it's like in a more competent show, that would be the central mystery, and it would come to play an important part in the third act. Instead, it's like tossed aside for a large part of the show, rather to give more time to things like Brooke and her teacher, which is crazy.
Hey, well, you guys see that scene, the riveting scene, where they talk about whether or not they want like chow mein or like do you want like egg rolls, and let's watch Fern Gully or whatever the fuck they said.
Look, at that point, you're just making me hungry. Like I'm watching the show and I'm thinking to myself, I could be eating Chinese food right now, and that's a real shame.
I don't even know what's going on anymore. Nothing else happened in this episode at all. Where she's like, "Oh wait, my mother banged Jason Voorhees," which go get it, man. Like, also, an old lady is horrifically implicated in a murder and never and gets away with it scot free.
Yeah, like this like Alzheimer's patient, and like I just watched like the Pit season 2 episode 2 where there was also an Alzheimer's patient who was very similar, and my wires were being crossed where I'm just like two crazy old ladies, too much for me to keep in my brain right now.
Are you sure she was older in this because it kind of seemed like she was just helping the murderer get off scot free.
Oh, you thought that she was just like, covering for him?
Yeah, covering for the killer because she's like,
Yes.
"Oh, he was so handsome." No, it's not a guy. It's a woman.
I
Sydney.
guess that's true, right? Like I guess that's the point there. But then also it's like she like that's one of those things where lazy screenwriters can just be like, but she's old, like, do you think that we're going to get any actual like clarification of that in season 2?
No, I don't
You-
think so.
Yeah, so it's like that's the way I'm approaching this, right? Like to where I'm just taking her
To
word
be
for
fair,
it
to be
in
fair,
the moment and then
to
forgetting about it later on because like that's the way that they're treating the storytelling.
to be fair, there's no clarification on anything scene for scene.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like again, it goes right back to the idea that they're assuming that like the person who could be watching this could be tuning in at any time, right? And they need to know that what is happening up until that point, and that's all that matters. Like that's what's more important than the overarching thing, where it's like even though it's visible enough to where we can comment upon it, especially as it retains to the original Scream franchise. The problem with this entity, this being, is that it doesn't have like a thesis statement. It doesn't
No,
have like, this is what we want to say about horror films. This is what we want to say about television horror. It doesn't have anything to say or do. It just only exists because of the name. And if you were to take the name away and just kind of present it as a Pretty Little Liars slasher thing,
mm,
maybe it would do well. Maybe it would be fine. I think that maybe actually because of the name association, it makes the whole thing worse.
it does because even in the worst ones so far, there is some class, you know.
Yeah.
And this is just so generic. It's why I'm saying we're in plastic town here, man. We're more
It feels
plastic than
more
Hollywood.
artificial. It feels more artificial than the Scream sequel that they're filming in Scream 3.
Yeah, come on, man. Tom Prince, let's get him in here, man. Class this place up. Parker
If
Posey was
only we
one.
were so lucky.
Parker Posey was one of these. Parker Posey should have played like the Gail Weathers podcaster.
Hey, I would have taken Hayden Panettiere, like like this show is begging for like some major star power. The fact that we get Willa Fitzgerald is more than enough in my eyes because like she is a competent actor.
Mhm.
If the show had like 3 of those, then I would be like this is an easy enough recommend for people who want garbage, right? But as it stands, like this is like a totem, I feel like we're like Indiana Jones and Alfred Molina, and we just discovered something, and I'm just gonna get stabbed by like a bunch of things coming out of the wall very soon because like this is the kind of thing where it's like it doesn't exist, it shouldn't exist, but it does, and the fact that it does exist within the context of the other Scream things. It's interesting, but then also it's ill conceited because they didn't fully think it through. Long thought. I know. Sorry.
No, you're right. Because like Stream Force said, they were overpaid to underthink it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that movie gets better every fucking second. So next up, the dance penultimate episode. Ty West. Nothing here sounds even as someone who hates Ty West. Nothing here screams Ty West at all.
Yeah,
At
that's the
all.
biggest issue, right? This is a total paycheck thing, right? And
Point and click.
like the thing that's interesting about Ty West as a filmmaker
Mm,
is that he's able to like you're gonna hate me for saying this, right? But he,
mm,
he is the filmmaker who kind of like brought mumblecore and horror together, right? He was somebody who like similar to what you were saying about like John Swanberg's section in VHS. That's kind of his like ethos for horror. And then also going further from that, like he does have like an interest in knowledge in the history and the roots of horror. And you can see that through his collaborations with Larry Fessenden. Like he is somebody who comes from that ilk, right? And it makes sense that he would do those things. The issue here, and it's similar to the issue that's present in the Cabin Fever sequel he did, is that this is a total for hire job. There's no sense of identity here. The Ty West genre trapping is being able to like draw out the dread for as long as possible, and then make it like really sing in the final act. Uh, you're not getting any of that here. You're just getting another episode in the show. And that's what this feels like. It feels like Ty West showed up after like, brushing the coke off of his upper lip to finish making the show. And then he went back to bed. That's what this feels like.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like essentially this would be like your Hail Mary. You're in the final stretch, you know?
Mm.
Anyone, I would say, like, even though I don't like Ty West stuff, um, if you let him swing a little bit, this you could have gone on something that I know what he's competent in my eyes at tone poems, you know? This
He
could have been
could
good.
make a baseline good horror film. He can
Exactly.
make a baseline good. That's why I'm a fan of him. Is
I-
because even when he goes just a bit better than what he usually like of what is expected from a horror film, that is enough to where it's interesting enough, right? And to go even further, it's like I made a mean thing about him, like snorting coke. I would even say that was just me being silly because I respect him that much. I think he's that cool to where it's like even if there's a chance that he hears that, I want to say, hey, you know what, Ty West, I think you're cool. And the reason being is because this is such a disappointment. This is such a like you have a chance to like he is working within the Scream franchise. And if there's anybody who would be good at a deconstruction in the modern era of the slasher, Ty West could be that person. He did that with X, right? Imagine what he could have done with Scream. That
yeah,
like
exactly.
it's wasted
Like,
potential.
like, like imbue like last minute buzzer beater, imbue some 90s actual edge into this, man. Cause it's so sanded off for all the shit it pulls. It's so sanded off. And just that I would have felt visceral embarrassment at the pulp fiction shit that this episode pulls. Being there, doing the pulp fiction dance. I would have killed
I
myself.
was so pissed off when that happened because like we were saying earlier about like Bob and Harvey Weinstein, right? Like that's like putting all the cards on the table in terms of like where this is, right? Because at the end of the day, this is worship, right? At the end of the day, this is just like how good of an investment we made 20 years ago. That's what this TV show is,
Mm,
right? And pulling a move like that is exactly what that means to me.
100%. Like there's no cynicism to this. I'm not saying that you need to be cynical. I'm not saying you need to be weary,
I
but
disagree. I think this is really cynical.
well, I mean, not in ways that count. Because at the end, you have like the fucking Randy guy going like just head empty, going like, "I'm continuing the podcast of the serial killer." Like, what the fuck, man?
I think that like
You're cutting out.
Yeah, sorry, Randy being the guy who continues on the podcast, like that is a natural extension in terms of like world building, right? I
Mhm.
wouldn't say that it's like well written or like do I believe that that's what would happen? No, right? That being said, like from an internal logic standpoint, and what that character represents, that's better than him, like ending up with this girlfriend that he has no relation to it whatsoever beyond just convenience. The issue is that like how would he be able to take over the IP of this podcast? Right? Like who decides that? And what are those things? He is taking over that, and the only reason we are accepting that is because that's a character we know who could end out the narration of the series.
Yeah, right. Um, but I do want to take one thing, and I guess you know what I'm going to say. But at this episode, they start to think that the bad boy is Brandon James's son. Okay, um, and,
Opening the door for like a possible incest arc, by
right,
the way.
and no one brings it up at
So
all.
bizarre. So
They-
bizarre that it's like nobody at least at any point is like, hey, so like if that's true, like maybe you should be hooking up with him, right? Like
you guys went to like third base, bro. I mean, come on.
right. And like there are points where like she is still considering that this is a possibility and they're still hooking up. Like she isn't even like, worried
Grossed
about that
out.
after some point. It's very bizarre.
Well,
It's very like
but also, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, that was it. Go ahead.
But also, no one. It also reveals that no one knows or understands how time works because it's not her parents got married and had her like immediately after. There was years. Brendan James' son it would be like 5 or 6 years minimum older than her. That
it's
guy's
it's why it's why the podcaster reveal makes sense, right? Like somebody who was in the writing room, like at least thought that out, right?
yeah.
Uh, but at the same time, the way that the mystery is doled out, right? Like the way that like people within the universe are trying to like weigh their options, exactly, it makes no sense, right? Like this guy would not be the killer. He's painted to be the killer so often through how sketchy he is, but like in that alone, we know to ourselves that he can have no involvement.
Exactly. And then again, it makes him so dumb that it's never brought up. You're like, I have a son who I guess remained a static age for years, you know?
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Like, not even she brings it up. They think it's like, I guess my child would be like in the late 20s at this point. Never, no.
But we got to be more cynical with this, right? We got to pull it back a bit, right? So let's go back to something that I called out earlier, right? So we got the mother and the daughter who are hooking up with this father and son,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
We know by the end of the series that that can't fly, right? Like they can't have, so it's like that, right?
Mm.
Of course, one of them has to go away or one of them has to be guilty, right? And that's what is the tension of this is, right? And what happens by the end? One of them dies, right? So it's like that's the direction they went in, right? And in my mind, as I'm watching the show, that's the equation I have in my mind because I know that like they can't have it, so that's the ending of this.
It's a
I
cold
that's too.
calculus. Yeah.
They have to choose a lane after a certain point, right? And it's like that's the level it's working at here. It's not working at like, what does this say about the slasher genre? What does this say about the scream genre whatsoever? They're flying by the seat of their pants. That's what makes the show so funny is that by episode, you can feel the writers just being like, how are we going to make this drag out any longer?
Exactly. Like it's and again, none of this would be a problem if they kept people alive for longer. I know you said you want a kill every episode, but also like they
Mhm.
killed off all the interesting people. It'd be more interesting to kill off later. You know?
Some of them off screen again, right? Like so some of these people who would have been very interesting to see die off screen, and it's like why would you do that when they are like so important to what this story ends up being? It feels as though like somehow the show was made week to week as well, where like they couldn't like start writing on the next episode until the first episode came out. You know what I mean? Like if that was the case, then I would be more lenient. But that's not the way the show was made.
Yeah. No. Uh. Anyway. Randy is totally forgotten about anything. He's like, I'm at this Halloween party having fun. What a piece of shit. Um.
He's got that terrible hairline, right? And again, they're like kind of baiting a will they, won't they with like the bi curious in quotations person. And he's doing this horrible vampire voice. He's lost his entire purpose at this rate, right? Like, because like with the
We're in
Asian
Endgame.
GF,
Yeah.
sorry.
We're in Endgame. There's no need for him to like investigate or make any quippy references.
And what happened to Randy in episode 2, right? He died.
Yeah.
They didn't need to keep Randy around, right? Like, why do we need to keep this guy around? Why does he need to live at the end of the season? He could have been killed off in like episode 5 and it would have made sense.
It would have, you know? Um, anyway, let's see here. I think yeah, this episode is boring shit. Um, okay, last episode, Revelations. Hellraiser Revelations. Emma's search for answers
You wish.
yeah, right. Finally ends when the killer is unmasked. It was Roman. It's Roman again. They did the whole fucking like you got a perfect life in the suburbs and I was
I have to
adopted.
podcast. Like the thing is like she has a famous podcast, right?
Right.
Like after a certain point, right? Like your revenge has to go way after a bit, right? Like all the other people who could be murderers in the series, right? Like they're desperate means, right? These are people who are like trying to get over, right? This is a person who has an established career at this point. Like she could do this for a few more years and probably retire, maybe. Like that's how famous she is.
Mhm.
Like I don't see the universe where she feels like this is so important to where she has to carry it out this way. It's such a funny reveal when it does come. That's why I was like happy when it happened. You know what I mean?
No, but also, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no. But also, it kind of brings up the question, like, was the entire podcast just a means to like make this happen?
Exactly. Like was this all her whole career was just a sham to get to this point where she could cover this thing when the time came, you know? It's so absurd.
It's like Lex Luthor, you know, like just pat it in your shit, man. Stop trying to kill Superman.
Just like a personal pet peeve, right? Like I hate it in like any of these slasher films, whether it be like Scream or anything else, where it's like it's revealed that they're related to one another, and then when the killer is revealed, right, they start going like, "Isn't that right, sis?" or "Isn't that right, cousin?" You know, like
That
when they're
happens
like
all the
really
Scream movies, to be honest.
it happens in every horror movie ever, right? Where it's like whenever it's revealed, they're like really rubbing the relation in, and it's like, come, okay, you could do that like one time, you know. When you're doing it like a million times, I'm like, okay, I get it. You hoodwinked me, whatever. You
Ain't
don't
that
have to
right,
do this shit.
cuz?
Yeah, I hate it every time. It's like, okay, do it once, get it out of your system, and then let's just keep going.
I know, I completely agree. Terrible, terrible time, and it just makes it flat. Like I want to see the character like have an emotional beat. Like, oh, I was just a facade. I'm really just a generic two-dimensional gawping villain. Okay, like what if it would like that'd be lame. That's lame to me. I think it does cotton you down from
And
what.
also, like, why are we doing this legacy sequel thing, right? Where it's like we're assumed to have some kind of like ingrained love or trust of the Willa Fitzgerald slash Sydney, not Sydney character, right?
Mm,
But again, this is like a legacy sequel where we don't see the first movie. So it's like, why would we care about these people so much as what we see, right? And it's like what we're seeing is like a good performance with bad writing. So it's like, why would we take that as something that we need to watch like 8 hours of?
mm. All right. Let's see here. Fun fact. Um, let's see here. A day prior to the airing of the finale, Wes Craven, the director of the Scream movies, passed away. Subsequently, the episode was dedicated to his memory in the last minute.
What a disgrace.
Oh my God.
What a bad way to remember Wes Craven, right? Like even Shocker, right? Like something like that, you know? Like I feel like even the Mangler, no, the Mangler was Toby Hooper, wasn't it? But it's like things like that, you know, like I feel like this is somehow even beneath the pornography for Wes Craven.
This is insane. Let's see here. Yeah, no,
Did
it's
you know that, by the way? Did you know that Wes Craven made pornography?
yes.
Yeah, sorry. So just want to throw it out there. Maybe the listener didn't know.
I did. Let's see here. Alright, the scene where just looking through the fucking trivia tabs here. If anything interesting? That's the only interesting thing. Everything else is just like describing the episode. Oh, this is
We,
like the
we
Scream movie. Of course.
we we've been like vultures on this husk, you know, like we've been pulling away the meat where it is, you know, like I think I got a couple tendons left in my teeth, you know. The problem with this show is that it's like it has all these elements,
Mhm.
these ideas, these like things that you can glom onto that are recognizable, something that is worthwhile. But us as people who are trying to like take this seriously, we're taking this more seriously than even the people who made this did. You
Many
know,
such
they
cases.
yeah, exactly, right? And like to them, it's like they are assuming that this is going to, you know, somebody's going to watch this. They're going to watch this maybe for like 10 weeks, and they're going to forget they watched this like 2 years from now, right? And it's like when you're considering this within the context of the larger Scream series, I think it's interesting in the sense that it's like there are ways in which it evolves the killer itself, but it still inherently has to fit within the box of like a Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah, it does. Like it's it's really nothing, you know? It's a really a nothing show. It exists within it exists between the crevices of other shows.
Which is why I want to watch season two. Which is why I think this is an interesting, worthwhile endeavor. But I would get it if you want to veto it. If you want to
No,
say let's
I'm
stop watching the shows,
I'm into it
because
because I kind of want to watch the final episodes, the two-parter TV movie thing. I want to see
I,
how that tracks
yeah,
out.
I want to see like what could happen with Aubrey, right? Like I think that like what they're promising there, it's like there's no way that they're going to actually reveal that she was a killer in the first season. I think that there's going to be like a misunderstanding, and that was just like a hook to get you to watch the next season. And they're going to like reveal that like she did even more crazy things than just the video, and she'll somehow be innocent. And then there will be two killers in the second season, and the two killers will be like someone we already knew and a new character. That's my guess. Like, and we're saying this right now because like, in a couple weeks or in a week from now, when we come back to this, we can check back and see, oh, right or wrong I was.
Well, let's see. Okay, let's see here. When does Scream 7 come out?
Scream 7 comes out in like a couple of weeks, right? 3 weeks, maybe?
Comes out February 27th. So that is
Oh, so that's like a
one,
whole month from now. That's like 4 or
two,
5 weeks.
3, 4. Wait, no. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 weeks from now. So we got 2 more movies, and then another show, a season of this plot line before it got canceled horrifically. And I
We
guess
could
like,
cover everything and then have a week to spare, is what
hey,
you're saying.
we could do a Pendragon's like during that week.
Hey, you're saying Pendragon only takes one episode, which is really funny.
Hey, let me say, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so the 2 leaked episodes, right? The two leaked episodes, they are like 40 minutes each. They cover the
Oh
entire
no,
first book.
that's hilarious.
And you know what the middle they cover? As I mentioned, the first book is from birth to
Yep,
death of
that's
Merlin's
hilarious.
parents, right? So
That's hilarious.
they basically only cover like the last 40% of the book.
Oh no. This like okay, the thing is like I'm locked in that for no matter what, right? But it's like with the Scream series, it's like I'm willing to go full, Indiana Jones on this. Let's just pillage this, do everything. But at the same time, let's do a temperature check on Doug, let's
Yeah,
see how he's feeling
I,
because
I,
like
I feel like best option. Okay, we do 5 and 6 like we planned, and then
yeah.
get back to the show.
Do you know if Doug watched the show or did like
He messaged me is that this is not an excuse. I have a trip that I can't get out of. It's
right,
not
right,
excuse.
right.
So I believe him. I believe him for now. How about we
I
just let
believe him too. I was just giving like him and Mikhail was his name, right?
yeah
Like I was giving them a hard time,
yeah
Like I don't think that they were actually bailing. I just think that when it comes to anything that we could be cover in this series, I understand this,
I agree. Um, so let's see here. Um, Yeah, no. So we'll do the movies and then we'll come back to this. We'll go. We'll do two. I don't know if you want to do like the 2 episode epilogue that they made the second season.
as a separate episode. Honestly, I think we just do season 2 as its own season, as its own episode, including those two. Because think about what we just did right now, right? Like we got 2 hours and 20 minutes out of this, but that's because we were riffing and having a good time.
We'll
I
be
feel
more
I
established next time. You know.
yeah, and plus, like assuming that we have more people on the next time too, right? Like we're going to probably be a bit more focused.
Yeah.
That being said, like I'm excited to go through all these. Like
I
this is hilarious.
yeah, I am too. Okay, I dropped. I
I
watched. I never watched season 2. I dropped it.
I have more to say about this show than I have had to say about Scream 4. Like with Scream 4, I was like, yeah, that was good. With this, I'm like, this is a fascinating mess.
I agree. Um, so let's see here. I guess final thoughts. Unless you want something you want to like pick up.
Yeah,
Cardi.
well, no, I feel like we've said what we've said about this, but I guess like final thoughts. The question would be like, who is this for? Like, what is the special circumstance I have to be in or you have to be in order for the show to be recommendable, right? And I think that the only way that you could recommend this to somebody is if they're a Scream completionist like us, right?
Mhm.
Watching through this whole series and trying to understand, like, okay, what do these things mean and how can we adapt these things to a modern age? I think that if you yourself, the listener at home, are like somebody who's looking for like a Halloween party that's only Scream based and you want to find some like Scream imagery to throw on in the background, to where like the Halloween party has some texture, throw on the Scream TV show because, like, while the imagery is pretty, boring, it's a,
Just do a super
MTV
cut.
show.
Every time the
Exactly.
costume shows up, you just do a super cut of that.
There you go, right? Like that itself will probably be like what, 20, 30 minutes. You put that with like a mixture of all of the films, you're fine. You're laughing. That's a whole evening. That's enough for drunk people will be distracted. What I'll say about this, trying to watch this seriously, like I've watched some really terrible television. This is terrible television. It's not the worst television I've seen, but it's certainly bad. And I think that there is some charm in bad television, just like there's some charm in bad movies. It's just a matter of like understanding how the format should work and laughing along with how it doesn't. So it's like, depending on if you yourself, the listener, understand what good and bad TV is, and if you get humor out of bad TV, like, hey, if you get humor out of bad TV, then maybe you should watch this. That's the way I'll phrase it. But if you're just kind of looking for TV to kind of unwind at the end of the day, you're probably better off watching like X Files or Fringe or something.
I'm gonna say it, not including like the made-for-TV movie, two-parter. The season 2 is 2 episodes longer, so technically it's 14 episodes in total.
Oh no.
This is gonna be
Jesus
this
Christ.
is gonna be a long one.
Row Shaggy, like that's the way I feel about it. Like my stomach just got unsettled and I'm
Oh,
holding it like
this is
for
gonna
dear
be
life.
this is gonna be rough, man. Anyway, final thoughts for me. Will Fitzgerald is very cute, but I didn't want to. The show made me feel like a perv many times. A lot of people can act. I'm definitely gonna watch The Blazing World. I'm gonna vibe out, and then I'm gonna put it on. Wherever it's streaming, I'm gonna put it on. And then, I don't know. That's
It's
my
it's on your iPod right now. It actually is like that one what's it called?
YouTube.
U2 album, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just already there.
And the mask is cool. The mask is cool. That's
It's a
it.
good mask.
It's a good mask.
Similar to John Travolta at the end of Blow Up,
Yeah.
it's a good mask.
All right. So, where can they find you?
Yeah, so that's my profile page at poor old Rolo Tony. That's where you can find me on Twitter. Some plugs. I'm a co-host, a Vegas residency co-host over at These Guys Got Juice. You can follow us there because we just did a top 12 of the year podcast where we went through our top 12 movies of the year. That was a lot of fun. You should definitely check that out. And then also you should check out 2 Cent Film Critics. I was on there to talk about my top 10 of the year. Obviously, I did the top 12 over on These Guys Got Juice. I did the top 10 over there. You're asking why would I, tune into both? It's because I went deep on the top 10 there, and on the top 12, I called out more films. So therefore, you get some variety. Lastly, I'll call out In Films We Trust. We just recorded our Depraved and Blackout episode where we'll be going through the last 2 films of the Larry Fessenden filmography. Get hyped for that and get hyped for more. That's it for me.
Yes. All right. And let's see here. Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening to Scream the TV series, which is a clunker of a title. Should we call it Scream the show or Scream the series? Why the TV series? It's probably a rights thing, isn't it?
Yeah, probably they're just like, hey, we only have the rights for the TV series specifically, so we have to make sure it's included within the title.
And yeah, just to answer your question, what frame of reference could you have? You mentioned it, completionist. I gotta say, um, let's see here. If you want to get really mad, and you gotta get this is maddening. But season 2 could be better. We know the characters, we know the killers, um, and they know they're getting canceled. So
Yeah, that
balls to the wall.
recontextualizes things.
Balls to the wall. Let's go, man. Anyway.
Hey, ultimately, I'm an optimist with these kinds of things. Like like, look, I go into like Hellraiser 2. I'm thinking like, it might be the pits, and then I watch Hellraiser 2, and I'm like, hey, that's great, right? But then I get to Hellraiser 4, and it's like I've got higher expectations for Hellraiser 4 than I had for Hellraiser 2.
Mm.
Because like maybe someone accidentally had a good idea, but I feel like with Scream, the TV series we've seen, at least with this first season, that wasn't the case.
No.
Maybe on the next round.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited for
Same.
Scream Halloween. Okay.
Mm.
We gotta see it. I gotta see it. Anyway, see you guys next time for
Yes, have a good night.
Scream 5, man. We're fucking along.
Oh man, Scream